And we're in, Paul. So, oh yeah, just as a reminder, this is my second chat with Paul. And if anyone wants to learn about Paul and his background and his history, you can go to podcast number 84. But this is our second chat. And Paul, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Excellent to be back, right?
Right. Yeah, in a brand new studio.
Same equipment, but new room. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot. It's good to see you. You've been traveling a lot. I've been following you because I follow you on Instagram, LinkedIn, the whole lot, and
Yeah.
see you on top of a mountain on a bike. So tell me, where have you been?
Okay. So I guess we did a podcast together, what, last year, like fall, maybe like late summer or early
Yeah.
fall.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been strange. Like, I've been trying to get back into this space since COVID because it's been like really difficult. And, um, and so I came to LA thinking like this would be the place to like try to restart my career. So, I spent the first like I've been here now 2 years,
Right.
as of November, and it's been strange because like I've gone out, met everyone, at at the studios, at the broadcasters, and everything like that, and everyone's just saying like we don't do adventure anymore. Like
Really?
unless you're Jimmy Chin or Alex Honnold,
Right. Yeah.
put your shit on YouTube, basically.
Oh, yeah. That basically that's what you're getting back.
Yeah.
Is it different climate if you go to, say, London or Europe, or is it the same thing? It's just the industry in general now.
Yeah, it's just the industry in general, and because I'm a native English speaker,
Mm.
like, mainland Europe doesn't really commission or spend a lot of money on TV shows, like, they'll pick up stuff in syndication that's in English
Uh-huh.
and then put subtitles on it because my shows have done well in Europe, but they're not gonna, like, initiate a sale and give you, like, the
Right.
big money you need to actually go out and make it.
Yeah.
And then it's funny about the UK, that's one of my biggest audiences,
Yeah.
um, and like you can see like United Kingdom, England, Scotland, Wales, like you can see the countries show up on YouTube, and you can see the countries show up when you get your statistics back on Amazon Prime and everything.
Right.
But I've had talks with people in the UK, and they kind of have an unwritten rule where they will not commission a series. They'll pick up stuff in syndication,
Yeah.
but they will not commission a series for a non-British lead.
Non-British, really? Wow.
Yeah, so even though, like, my numbers are really good in the UK
Yeah.
and I've got a great following, getting
Again, to do with their kind of target audience and their protocol of how they see it,
yeah.
and what's coming back on the analysis, I guess.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I used Asia as my, like, stomping ground back in the day, not only because I was based in China, but it's because, like, I could get money to do original things working with, like, Discovery Channel Asia or BBC
Right.
in Asia,
Yeah.
and then I could get real money from them, and then I could make the show, and then I could sell it into Europe, sell it into the UK, sell it into the US, and that was kind of my model for a long time.
Right.
But no one's doing that anymore, and the broadcasters are just like, "We don't do travel anymore unless you're, like, a celebrity."
Right. So it's kind of all self-produced, get it on YouTube, build an audience, and then we're interested, then we may buy it, we may distribute it our way, or
Well, by then it's too late, like, because 'cause I've already put it out to
then
the world.
you own it anyway.
Yeah.
So why sell it to them when you're
Yeah.
getting it direct?
And then, of course, like, you've got Patreon, which is interesting. So I've just started, like, really getting into this. So it's a subscription-based platform where you can charge people, like, $4 or $5 a month
Mhm.
to, like, have access to your world.
Right.
So it's like the OnlyFans version for people that aren't doing porn. And it's been great. So I started a Patreon page, like, 2 years ago, and I was just kinda dabbling with it, but now I'm just like, "Well, this is the future." Like,
Yeah, I see it a lot everywhere, Patreon, the
yeah.
links and my links going everywhere from Instagram. Yeah, but I think that's the way a lot of things seem to be going, which is you are self-producing, self-creating, creating your own platform, putting out there, and then creating your own kind of audience. I mean, it seems, mass media is almost dead.
Oh, completely.
They're trying to find another way, and they're just holding on with fingernails right now. But yeah, I think with social media platforms and also the way the world in general is going with the political scene, where we're going with tech, AI, it seems to be stripping a lot of jobs and a lot of paychecks. We seem to be on our way, to some kind of universal income.
Basic probably, yeah. Yeah.
Which I don't know whether at this stage is a good or a bad thing because, on one side it's like it gives people the opportunity to do whatever they want to do, I guess,
Mhm.
and pursue art or creativity or whatever they want to do. But then is there a lack of motivation, a lack of hunger to, go out and also socialize and create, businesses? I don't know. It's an interesting time right now. You must see this and censor this in different ways as you travel through different cultures and different countries. That you're here in the heart of kind of LA, Beverly Hills, and then you're traveling to the middle of nowhere, and then you're seeing how they're living life.
Mhm.
How does that affect you, um, personally?
I think it just makes me realize that like most conversations that are going on in the United States don't resonate at all anywhere else in the world.
Mhm.
And all these conversations about AI or the green revolution, all this is just bullshit everywhere else. Like I was in Ecuador last week,
Yeah.
like these people are trying to just make a living, like they're subsistence farmers or they're involved in tourism. That's like it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Galapagos Islands, Cotopaxi volcano, and then or else you're a farmer. Like there's really no industry there, and it's like they don't give a fuck about the green revolution. They're just trying to feed themselves and,
Yeah.
and take care of their families, and
Yeah.
like they don't have any idea about what's going on with AI and how it's going to take jobs away. So it's funny, like you can get, if you spend too much time in LA specifically or in the United States, you can get all kind of bottled up
For sure.
with anxiety about all these things that are going on, and the news does that kind of on
Of
purpose.
course, yeah.
But once you get out, like you just get a much kind of wider perspective, and you realize that most of it, like all these things are happening,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
the sense of urgency globally is just not there.
yeah. Well, it also seems to be my understanding is now the reverse of what the radio did, the TV did, the internet did, which is kind of start to strip away more kind of blue collar jobs, whereas this is the other way around. It's taking out, paralegals, admin, lawyers, people packing boxes in Amazon,
Yeah.
all this kind of thing. Whereas if you're a plumber, you're an electrician, you're an adventurer, you're a hairdresser, can't take these jobs at present. So it's an interesting reverse analogy of what's happened over the past kind of 90 years.
Yeah.
I think for the first time, what I'm saying is, especially in film and TV and entertainment media, is that no one can really predict anything anymore
Hmm.
because it seems to be that every week something is changing so rapidly. No one can grasp what the next kind of audience is and what the next thing is. And especially when you're trying to pitch things to people, whether it be something that's creative or even a business plan, well, that just kind of goes out the window
Yeah.
because, you know, I think it was maybe 2, 3 years ago, telling kids in college, to be I don't know, a programmer, I don't know if that's the right word for it, or coding.
Yeah.
And now, fuck it, there's no fucking point.
No,
Your job's gone.
it's amazing. Just as an aside, I had a conversation a couple years ago with like a baby boomer. He was like in his like late 60s, and he was like scolding me for not learning computer programming in university. Instead, I studied like politics, and then I got into journalism, and then now television and stuff like that. But he was like scolding me like I was 10 years old, like, "Oh, you should have got into computer programming. This is the future and all that stuff."
Being all
And
smug.
now, yeah, being all smug. And it's just like the world moving forward is the internet. And I was just like, but it's not going to be done by people. And you could already see the writing on the wall back then, but it was a funny argument I had. And you,
Call them now.
let's get him on the pod, pals. I really haven't had anyone on the podcast who I massively disagreed with, and I
Right.
don't know if it's just because people are too polite.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to like have someone on the podcast and just go at it.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. I've seen a couple of, podcasts lately where they've had, I guess, like a debate style team where they've
Mm.
had 2 or 3 people on. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
It not the kind of, like, fucking chaos of Piers Morgan. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've seen that. Yeah,
Where he gets like 4 kids on and they fucking hate each other and they're at each other's throat and they're all speaking over each other. Though obviously it sells. It
yeah.
works well. He's got a massive audience. But
That's a dim lookout on the
really,
audience.
there fucking is. People watch it, right?
Uh,
Yeah, it's since we last met, there's been a lot happening just here. Obviously we had the fires.
how was
And
that? Were you hurt by that at all, or?
I wasn't personally. I mean, we were right on the edge of it. We got evacuated for 8 days.
Oh fuck, where'd you go?
We had a luckily good friend had a house downtown that was just kind of spare. They were away,
Mm.
and they said, "Yeah, just go there," because we tried to get a hotel and everything was booked up by that point. Because obviously, everyone in the Palisades and part of Malibu were already obviously gone. Their houses were up in flames, unfortunately. We had a lot of friends who lost their house. It was crazy. It was a very just a really crazy time. You suddenly realize how quick things can turn and how you can lose everything. But here's the funny thing. I didn't think it was gonna get to us, and it was kind of coming over the mountain, seeing the Palisades, and then it had to go down a ravine and then up, and then it would be with us. And I was speaking to the fire chief, and he says, "If it hits here, forget about it. Santa Monica's gone."
You're in Santa Monica.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, "It's gone." He said, "We've been warned about this for a long time."
Mhm.
So someone comes knocking on our door late at night and says, "You have to evacuate. It's protocol." Okay, right. So I kind of take it like at 80%. I'm like, "Okay, we'll do what you need to do."
And you got a wife and kids, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
dogs. So grab kids, dogs, wife, of course.
Yeah. The
And
wife stayed behind.
the wife, they're like, you stay here and let me know when it gets warm. Text me. We'll be in the hotel. But I grabbed, I think a rucksack, my laptop, passport, I think something else. That was it. So I'm thinking, God, in life is maybe that's all I need, and
Mhm.
I can rebuild everything else. It it really put a magnifying glass on what's really important.
Yeah.
You grab your family, you grab your dogs, a passport. Hopefully, I need that to travel. Laptop, a lot of stuff on there. Grab that. I think I grabbed a bunch of clothes. That was it.
Yeah.
And but then we were able to come back and grab more because they're like, you need to be evacuated for much longer. And yeah, it was weird and sad to see it because obviously people lost a lot. They lost everything, and it happened so fast. But I still can't get over the lack of preparation and leadership in terms of, why was there a reservoir that's supposed to be absolutely full and ready for such a scenario? Why was there no PSI pressure in the fire hydrants?
The politics of it all reeks.
Oh, it really does.
Yeah.
And still they haven't been answered. And one point it was funny, prior to that, the politics going on between the borders. Yeah, here we have to get Canada to come down with their planes and their pilots to save us, and then have also the Mexicans come up and dig us out of it and dig lines out of it, and they're sent back. Yeah, it was very interesting to see.
The world's 8th largest economy is California, like
Right.
the
How
richest
can you
state
not
on.
afford planes and pilots and train them and have a depot for them? And it just baffles me. Where does that money go?
Oh, yeah, I just watched the Lost Bus with Matthew McConaughey
Oh, I
about the
did too. I
yeah.
thought it was great.
Fuck, that was crazy, wasn't it?
That was classic Paul Greengrass. Keep you on the edge of your seat. Matthew, I've always found great,
Yeah.
but really intense. But I found it great because it was so on the mark in terms of it was very real.
Yeah.
I didn't experience anything like that. But what I did experience and I did see and I heard third hand from other people that are really in it. They did a very good job with that movie. I thought it was a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just part and parcel, I guess, of I guess what I call like living in paradise. People want to live in these environments and these neighborhoods and have this beauty, which I totally understand. I'm part of that, but with it comes risk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just dry shrubs everywhere. It's interesting, like, we're what, like 11 months into this now, and we're now just like we're in November, and we're now just starting to like figure out, okay, so they redistricted most of the Palisades now through like emergency measures in the LA County. And now, they've greenlit various projects for multifamily housing, which is something they've always wanted to do in the Palisades, make them more densely populated, get
Yep.
rid of these like single family homes and start
Right.
putting in like townhouses or multifamily homes.
That's right.
They've now like zoned a bunch of it for low income housing.
Mhm.
And it's watch. So I like talking to you because you're a Brit living in LA. I'm a Canadian living in LA, and it's so easy to call bullshit, but no one else around seems to like figure it out.
Even the people that really got hurt by it, and it's bizarre because my understanding is this could be a complete rumor, but it's come from pretty decent sources, which is along the PCH, all those the beach houses that burned down. Apparently, most of those lots are now being bought by the Chinese.
Yeah, international buyers. Yeah,
Yeah, international buyers, so they're gonna sit on those lots. Also, the code and the rules of regulation of actually building on PCH massively, and it has changed.
Mhm.
So to do it just to build the foundations, you're talking probably $1 million just to start with. So it seems to be almost on purpose certain scenarios,
Right.
and it's like how does a neighbor that wealthy, that affluent, with so much intelligence within it, like the consumers, the people that live there.
Yeah.
How does that happen to a neighborhood? Because I think they were so shocked and surprised
Yeah.
because they are literally paying for that kind of protection and that affluence
Mm.
for their family and that neighborhood where it's probably still one of the neighborhoods around where you can, the kids can get on the bike and just bike up the shops and back down, and it's kind of within general no worries.
Yeah.
And it struck me that, amongst them, there must be a bunch of billionaires, let alone millionaires. If those guys all got together and put their money together and with their contacts and their intelligence, they could actually probably buy out the Palisades and then they could bring it back to what it was and do it their way.
Right.
But of course, that moment has passed,
Yeah.
as we know. So what it's going to turn into, I don't know. But I drove through it no less than 2 weeks ago. I filmed it. It is farmland. I mean, there's one or two houses trying, permits permitting, which we know will take 20,000 years.
Yeah. And
So
tens of thousands of dollars.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally farmland, really sad.
Yeah.
So people are talking about, oh, it's gonna be back for, let's put a marker in like the Olympics. No way, it's gonna take 10 years before you see any kind of neighborhood come back. And sadly, also the people that their house that didn't burn down, they're almost in a worse position regarding the insurance companies because now the insurance is depends on the terms and conditions, of course, but most of them are saying, well, if you have a mortgage, you have to pay that off before we can relinquish the insurance money.
How crazy is that?
That's crazy. I know they told me about that story.
Hmm.
So they had to pay it off, and now they're waiting for that insurance money to kick in. And again, we're talking, pretty big houses here. And then I have another friend who's luckily house didn't burn down, and yet he has a family, young kids. You're not going to live there. You're living in a dystopian world.
Yeah.
Sometimes with no power, literally just farmland. So you don't want your kids, you don't want to be there. There's nothing there. There's the odd shop here and there open. So now you have to try and sell that house. And here comes this Mr. Developer. And they say, I'll give you X for it. And you're like, wait a minute, it's worth X, X, X. He's like, well, no, not now because this is farmland and you're the only one standing. So I'm really buying your land. I'm not buying your house because I'm going to knock it down.
Yeah.
So everyone, it doesn't matter what happened to you up there. You're pretty fucked.
And the insurance companies aren't paying the full values of the houses, so people can't rebuild their homes even if they wanted to. And
Right.
I've heard also too, I'm curious, when you were up there 2 weeks ago, did you see any homeless people squatting on land? Because I heard that's become a real problem too.
I didn't, but I didn't go what I would call like the high street central, where Chase Bank was and all that. So maybe they're squatting around there
Yeah.
because that seems to be the only place with kind of power on. I think I saw one place open, which was Chipotle.
Thank
But
God for Chipotle.
thank God for Chipotle. And there's one guy outside eating, but it's a ghost town, so I didn't see them. But I'm sure it's a good invitation for them to come up there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it literally is farmland, so it's sad. But still, I don't know when people are going to get actual answers. I think they've kind of given up, which is understandable. But I don't know.
It's terrible because it's such a beautiful place to live. Like, but you have to understand, like, if you take a global perspective on this, and that's what I try to bring to the podcast because I've fucking lived all over the world. But like, people burn down shit in order to get it redistricted, rezoned, so that they can build on it.
Right.
This happens fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
So I remember in 2021, I was living in Istanbul for 2 or 3 months in the summer because I was in Dubai at that time and it was like too hot. So I went to Istanbul to hang out and I rented a place for 3 months. And the exact same thing happened in southern Turkey. So Bodrum is this really famous like seaside resort on
Right.
the Med in southern Turkey, and this hotel developer wanted to develop this forest area that was next to one of their hotels already, and it was zoned like a state park, like an equivalent, like a state park, not a national park, but like a state park. So they were rejected. And then 4 weeks later, there was a huge fire in that state park, and the whole forest burned down. And then 4 weeks later, they were approved to build on that land and expand. And this all happened in 3 months while I was living in Istanbul.
Yeah.
And this shit happens all the
all
time.
the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And people don't get, they're like, "Oh my god, it's such a tragedy." It's like, no, this shit gets planned out like years in
Years
advance.
ahead. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And with sometimes the insurance companies as well, depending on what it's priced up as. So yeah, it's been I think it was the last knock. Am I thinking right? I can't remember where the strikes were for the writers and actors. It was after that, wasn't it? Yes.
No, no,
No, no,
before
no, it was before.
2023.
So I think yeah, so I'm right in thinking like it was the last kind of nail in the coffin, I feel, for LA, because I just after that it was just I don't know, it still is grieving. It's been through a lot. I think it's a little bit on its knees. It'll
Mm.
come back. It's LA. It's Hollywood. It will come back. How? When? I don't think anybody really knows. But I've been traveling just because I've been writing new stories and I have a new TV series and we're pitching it. So I've been here and I've been to London, and it seems like everything has moved to London and Europe, and it seems to be now the central hub of acquiring and producing and filming everything under the sun.
It's not just production and day rates, it's like actual IP people are
Oh
buying.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the meetings that I was sitting in, it wasn't my mo to bring up anything of that nature, but it just came up naturally in conversation. Even one of my agents that represents me, they have offices in Australia, here in LA, and in London, and they've moved most of the team to London. They just said most of the action is here because I think they kind of played the long game and they got it right. Less red tape, easier to film, lot of investment and expansion for studios like Pinewood. And then they've got great partnerships with, Ireland. A lot of stuff is filmed in Ireland, and they've got great tax breaks there. My friend just finished
Game of Thrones was all done in Northern Ireland, right? Like, well, that part of it anyways.
Northern Ireland, and I want to, yeah, I think it's Malta as
Mm.
well.
And Dubrovnik,
And
Croatia.
Dubrovnik, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then Prague is another hotspot as well. So between all of them, and they're a stone's throw from each other, as we know. They're like an hour and a half ride in a plane. They're kind of controlling the market now and the distribution and everything. And, a lot of people have moved themselves, their lives, for long haul to the UK. Tom Cruise loves being there, spends a lot of time there. Keanu Reeves is now living there for the next year. He's filming there. There's a whole bunch of them. So it seems like that's where it's moved to for now. And I guess it will stay around there for a while. So, yeah, it seems to have called the plug on LA and Hollywood a little bit.
That's wild because, like, from the outside looking in, the UK is an absolute mess right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think politically, economically, socially, yeah. They're like a lot of places in the world. Like I said, this isn't isolated now to America or UK. It seems to be everywhere. I've never seen more protests and marches across Europe and America in the past. Probably consolidated to the last year.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. We seem to be heading for a massive change in humanity and how we live, and I think it's to do with just exhaustion of lies,
It's
and
really it's really the lies.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's an exhaustion. I think a lot of us kind of probably understood or knew, but it wasn't enough to tip us over the edge, and now it's really affecting people. It's affecting their lives, and I think everyone's just done with the lies and the bullshit, and they're calling it, and they're not afraid to step up because they've already lost everything or partially everything. And that's why you see them marching in the streets.
Mm.
So I think we're in for a big change. And I think it's not just isolated to one country. I think it's across the globe. And yeah, it's a really interesting time. Like I said, it seems to be every day, every week, there's something going on, and it's changing. It's pushing the needle.
It's really strange because, like, you and I are both immigrants here in the United States, and I'll speak for you on this front. We're both legal immigrants that are
Right.
working in the entertainment industry
Right.
legally.
Yes.
And I love it because I'll chat with people in passing and stuff like that, and they'll be like, "Oh, there's such an immigration problem in the US." And I'm like, "No, no, no, it's not an immigration problem. It's a illegal immigration problem."
Yes.
Because
Yep.
there are legal
The
immigrants that
difference.
come here and get the visas and make money and contribute to society in a positive way and pay taxes and do all those things. And then there's illegal immigrants that come, and they might be fleeing from something terrible in their homeland, and that's totally fine. I get that. but there's still a process.
Mhm.
And the fact that they're getting like I make TV shows, I make videos, I have editors I work with, I have other cameramen. These are all like young people in their 20s and 30s. Like they don't get free healthcare, but the illegal immigrants get free healthcare.
Right.
They don't get free housing. Illegal immigrants are getting free housing.
Right.
Like they're like when you start treating illegal immigrants better than your own tax-paying voting citizens,
Mhm.
something's about to burst.
Of course. Yeah.
And that makes no sense to me.
No, and the same thing has happened in the UK.
Yeah.
That's why there is so much pushback. They come across the border. I heard here that they're given some kind of temporary passport. They're giving them a credit card,
Driver's licenses,
driver's licenses, $10,000, a hotel room, hot meals.
driver's licenses so they can
Right, and
vote.
then you've got people who are, Americans here, like, doing, what, 2, 3 jobs, trying to pay the rent, what do you think is gonna happen? And the same thing is happening in the UK, by the way.
Yeah.
Why that's why there's so much pushback. So, it's burst, man, it's gone. They're losing control of it. I think they know that. They're trying to turn the ship around. I just think it's gonna turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So yeah, we could go for hours.
Yeah, no, we go yeah, we yeah.
Let's go back to the UK for a sec. So because like let's just remind everyone you're a screenwriter. You started off in theater and entertainment, and that was kind of your entry point entertainment. You were in the West End, and then you came over here and started writing.
Mhm.
You've been writing like film scripts, television scripts, et cetera, et cetera. So you're a great person to kind of get the barometer or try to understand like what's going on in film and television because all we see is like Skydance buys Paramount, Warner Brothers is going to sell itself to Netflix, you know, 6,000 people get laid off at Paramount or something like that. Like this city is reeling. And the fact that you just came in here and said like people are moving their entire operations to the UK, I find that super like are they doing casting for everything in the UK too?
Not everything. I think it's a fair share still, but predominantly, yeah. I know. I have a friend. He's a great actor. He just finished filming Rainmaker. They've now made it into a TV series. They filmed the whole thing in Ireland.
Mhm.
So that's the whole crew. That's the whole everything. Putting them up in hotels for months and months and months.
But
That's
are they still doing casting and like are they still doing like the IP
I
acquisition here?
I don't know what the percentage is in terms of what I think they are casting mainly here,
Yeah.
but in terms of costs and then where you film and where, like, that's a lot of people, that's a lot of logistics moving to Ireland. So overall, you're telling me, that's worth it because it's probably, 20-30% difference in terms of your finance and your budget.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are doing that, and they're doing similar into the UK, Prague, Malta,
Hungary.
Budapest, Hungary,
Yeah.
all these places. So they are losing they are losing that. They've lost that battle,
Mhm.
because as we know, you have to prep and pre-plan years in ahead. So when something gets greenlit, then it goes through so many different scenarios before camera gets to set and before actors get, so we're talking years ahead. So they're already booked up. Their calendar's booked up at Pinewood, UK, Prague, all these places. So that's going to carry on for the next, 2, 3, 4 years. So this is going to be a bit of a ghost town in comparison to what it was. It might not be to some people from the outside going, well, there's still things happening. Yes, there is. There always will be. It's Hollywood, it's LA, of course. But in comparison to what it was, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about the loss and the lack of work. Yeah, it's definitely had a big key to play in where I am focusing my energy. Hence why I've been to London twice since we last spoke,
Mm.
with my work. So, and that usually wouldn't really happen. I'd go once and I'd mix a little bit of business, but mostly it'd be pleasure just to check in with family.
Sure.
So the landscape and the environment is definitely changing. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's hard to predict where it's gonna come back.
I just listened to Russell Crowe and Rogan just did a podcast, and it came out this morning. I was listening to it before you showed up, and Russell Crowe was saying that he was filming a movie, and it was all about living in Portland, Oregon,
Mm,
which is obviously just a 1 hour flight from Los Angeles, where we are now.
right, right.
But they filmed it in rural Germany.
Oh, in the probably. I wonder if they were in like Munich or Berlin.
I don't know, but he just said like it's so funny that like people don't even want to film
Yeah.
US stories in the US, and they're using like small villages and towns in Europe to mix over for like rural
Right?
Oregon.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's but you yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. I have a producer on my project, and they actually just filmed up in Michigan. So like I said, it is still happening, but on a very low scale, and it's hard to do. And they arguably have great setups in the UK and Europe, and arguably some of the best crews in the world. So I think they just played the long game. I think in many ways they saw this coming.
Yeah,
Um,
it's and so I was at a DGA event, a Directors Guild event, over on Sunset a couple months ago. Well, maybe almost a year ago now, and it was Denis Villeneuve and Chris Nolan. So Chris Nolan was moderating, Denis Villeneuve. So we watched Dune 2,
oh man,
and
love
then they did like a little Q&A after.
right.
And Denis Villeneuve was just like, okay, so all the indoor scenes we shot in Budapest, Hungary, because they have the largest indoor sound stages in the world. And he goes, all the outdoor desert stuff was shot in Abu Dhabi. And like there was like 500 people in the audience, and I knew that, but these people are blown away that like none of that film was even shot in the United States at all.
No, no, yeah, yeah, and also such a vast, amazing landscape here. You know, with whether you're west, east, north, but it's not cost effective anymore.
Yeah.
And they don't have the resources that they did. And a lot of people have moved on. So yeah, it's interesting. I just wrote something we're currently pitching right now, and it's getting a lot of interest, but it's a difficult one because of the content that it is, and it dips in and out of kind of a period timelines. And a lot of it is set in and around Italy and Germany, but also the United States. So we're looking for co-finance, hence why I was in London. But they were talking, we don't have to go that anyway anymore, which is you would usually try and co-finance, especially with an American producer or studio, and then go and get the extra 30, 20, 10% in Europe. There's benefits to that in terms of distribution later on and how you advertise it. But they were just saying, we don't need to do that anymore. We just film the whole thing over here, inside, outside. We've got everything locked down, and it also consolidate the budget much better.
Yeah.
And we can control it a lot better as well. So it is actually happening. It's not just a rumor, and you can feel it. And I think you can really feel it, especially if you work in the industry. I have also friends that are behind the camera a lot. They're DOPs, they're grips, they haven't worked for 5, 6, 7, 8 months, and they just don't know what's next. And they're at a very, very high level. So it's very hard for them to suddenly, they will, of course, because work is work, right? But to suddenly, I have to go and work on might be a student film, but they love working. They love what they do. That's part of it. It's a hard mix. It's like, they got into it because they love it. But they're at extremely high level. So one minute you're standing next to Russell Crowe, and the next minute, you got a student calling you, okay, hey, can we just grab you for a few days?
It's wild,
It's
man.
wild.
I don't know how doing business in the United States like became so difficult or so expensive or so toxic.
Um, I think that goes back to what's happening in the political scene, and the leadership. And that is a can of worms, right? Everybody's talking about it, and depending on what apparent side you sit on, which I don't sit on any side. I'm looking for truth. I'm looking for common sense, and there seems to be a lack of it.
We're immigrants, baby.
Yeah, right.
We just want peace and quiet.
Yeah, I really do. And to be clear, America is a great country. That's why I came here. It's full of opportunities, incredible. I still believe it has a lot of that, but I think the tank is on empty a little bit, right? And people are, like we said, exhausted of being trodden on,
Yeah.
and that's what.
Manipulated, lied to, et cetera, et
Yeah,
cetera.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think because of that, and I think California seems to stand alone, obviously, pushing back against certain political leadership and regimes. But it's difficult, I think his hands are tied in terms of federal funding as well. And obviously that goes back to what happened with the fires as well. So yeah, I think for a lot of people, they turn their head and like, how the hell did this happen? Seems to happen so quick.
Mm.
But it's like anything else. It's the case of boiling like a lobster. It's like if you look at the small increments,
Oh, the frog in the frying pan.
the frog in the frying pan. There
Yeah.
you go. Thank you. Then you can kind of see it all. Whereas if you look from year to year or 6 months to 6 months, you're like, well, how the hell did this happen? It's like,
Mhm.
well, it's been going on. It's just been going on behind our backs.
Yeah.
And we're all busy people. We've got to go to work. You got to earn money. You got kids. You got family. Keeping you busy. That's what social media does.
I have a theory. So I was in Ecuador for like 10 days climbing volcanoes and stuff like that. And it, when you walk for 8 or 10 hours a day on the side of a mountain, like it's quite meditative, right? So your mind drifts and wanders and it's beautiful. And I came up with this because I studied international politics and political theory all through school and things like that.
Wow.
And I've noticed something. It's like, and actually I had a chat with my grandfather about this like in the 90s. And I remember I was sitting there with my grandfather and he was saying like, when I was growing up, working for the government was a real feather in your cap. It was a real sense of honor. It was a real sense of achievement and respect in the community to work for the government and to like to serve.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's interesting. But I was like a teenager at the time, so I didn't really take it to heart. And then as I was walking last week, in Ecuador, I realized something. It's like for hundreds of years, thousands of years we were always governed by aristocrats and wealthy people, right?
Mhm.
And that worked kind of well, like there wasn't a lot of mobility, through the ranks and things like that, but things were, pretty stable. And then we have an American Revolution, and then it's all about, and then they just replaced some aristocrats for other aristocrats. But then you get this sense of like mobility, and somehow like democracy is all about mobility. But there came a time where people the electorate, the citizens, they didn't want to be ruled by aristocrats anymore, and they didn't want to be governed by a financial elite or a political elite, right? So then they started kind of championing like the average Joe or the blue collar man. And when I say blue collar, I mean like lawyers, doctors, etc. Not like people working on the assembly line or something like that. But it's funny because the good thing about being governed by aristocrats is, of course, they had their own financial interests in being in control. And I actually don't mind that because at the end of the day, they couldn't be bought and sold.
Right.
They had their own interests.
Right.
They had their own interests and but they were doing it on the side and it was kind of on the down low. But now I feel like we've transitioned into being governed by the average man or by, blue collar workers or lawyers and things like this. And you see this just wholesale group of people, in Congress, for example, in the House and the Senate. And they're all just bought and sold. Like they're really like integrity wise, they're some of the lowest of the low people I've ever heard speak in my entire life. And I'm thinking like, okay, what's going to come back. And my feeling is, and everyone hates people like Elon Musk, but the good thing about Elon Musk is he can't be bought and sold.
Yeah.
Like, he came up with
That's
this.
quite clear.
Yeah, he came up with this Doge idea. He wants to cut government spending. He doesn't have a, he even oversaw EV cuts,
Right.
tax breaks, even though
Right.
he makes an EV company.
Yeah.
So like I just feel like we're on the cusp of being done with these like people that'll bend over backwards for a $10,000 cash in an
Yeah.
envelope.
Yeah.
And I think we're like on the verge, and maybe Trump is part of this, I don't know, but I feel like we're on the verge of being governed again by the super wealthy as a way of
Interesting.
just getting rid of the insider trading, the petty politics, all the bullshit. Not that the UK runs any better because they're kind of governed by aristocrats, but I just feel like there's a shift coming where we're tired of seeing, people stay in Congress for 70 years and insider trading the entire time and leaving in a wheelchair at 90
Right.
and really not contributing. And I just feel like
No
I feel like
consequences.
something's changing here.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. You can feel it. I think you can see it. It would be interesting to understand, like, like I said, what is next, because I think the average person does not trust barely any government figure anymore, any politician,
Which is the worst.
which is the worst because their job is once they get into it. I actually do believe, or I'd like to believe, that when they are younger and they're getting into politics, they want to become a politician, that they feel on some level that they can genuinely make a change.
Mm.
You know, that's their passion, that's their drive. I think if you asked 90% of them back then, they generally feel that they can make a change. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the one. They get into the system and they realize how messy, sticky it is, and there's a whole queue, a line of people waiting for
Handouts.
handouts,
Yeah.
you know, and then they just get involved and they're like, well, okay, I'll just get in line. And then when they look back, it's been a long time since they look back, you know, and they don't really recognize themselves. So it's a weird but I think you're right. I think it's falling apart. And it'd be interesting to see where it goes. I wonder if governments will survive. Um, you know, what would we do?
Well,
Do you think it'd be a better place if we didn't have a government?
no, I don't think we can. I don't think we can govern ourselves.
Mm,
I think we need the police. I think we need to have intermediaries. I think we need to have like a rules based economy.
mhm,
You know, where there's people kind of governing the rules of how we all treat each other.
mhm. Do you think it has to get to a point of almost dystopia for us to realize that again and then then start again? You know what I mean? Like in terms of it's like what's happening now. The pendulum has swung prior to this, I think, way too far one way.
Mhm.
So now, you know, we use Trump as an example. He's swinging back, you know, so hard the other way,
Right.
and this just kind of carries on. At some point, if the government and its people crash because the people, the masses, take over, because I think they're starting to understand it's about numbers. It's a numbers game, like,
Sure.
you know, and that's what they've already been always been afraid of. That's why, you know, they split us up into groups, fear mongering, etc. Keep us busy, got to pay taxes, blah blah blah. So if we bring down the government, you know, and it's complete fucking mayhem and dystopia, does that then bring us back to zero to realize, oh shit, we do need rules, we do need we need someone to govern, we need to vote in some kind of leadership, or does it go to what I think is it Switzerland? Who has some kind of board of 7 or 8 people where each person has to be, you know, one is a female at a certain age and background, another one is a male, you know, and they all have to agree on passing a bill or a term.
Yeah.
And that country seems to run relatively well in terms of, I guess, you know, obviously economics, education. Of course, it has its problems like everybody else, but
It's quiet.
it's quiet. Yeah.
I lived there for 2 years. I don't even know who the prime minister was.
Right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So they seem to have got it down to a pretty good system. If you like to live like that, right? It depends, but that's their culture. Whereas in America, you know, it's one person at the top
Sure.
and his team, and that's it. And also, you're allowed to buy your way into this government, you know, by a fucking long way. That's the only difference really with the UK is they're not allowed to chuck money at it. Although I think they do behind the scenes, you
Yeah.
know, and there's no is there there's not even a ceiling, is there, in terms of money for when you're running for president here? You don't have a ceiling on how much money you can chuck at it because, I mean, Elon Musk dumped a crazy amount of money to back Trump
Yeah.
at that time,
Yep.
aligning with what he thought would work for the people.
Yeah.
So it's just maybe you take that away. Maybe it's the money because again, you know, and I'm touching on a sensitive subject, I guess, but you know, I didn't realize how much control and power APAC had.
APAC, like
Yeah.
the Asia Pacific.
No. Sorry, the Israelis, inside Congress.
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
they're paying everyone.
They're paying. I didn't realize that there was a someone put up a graph on social media, whereas you know each politician and congressman and how much they got paid per year by them. Well, of course, it's going to sway your opinion and your vote, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking small money as well. We're talking everything from 50,000 up to like $500,000.
Sure.
Yeah. It's like, well, it's fucking common sense. If they're getting paid $500,000 and they come knocking on your door going, hey, can you just make sure you put in your vote? Well, which way do you think they're going to vote?
It'd be interesting to see, like, I think maybe before there's absolute anarchy, maybe we'll get like some version of electoral reform.
Mhm,
Because like in Canada, it's actually a pretty interesting system. So what happens is in Canada, you elect a party, not a person,
mhm,
and then the party leader becomes prime minister. So I think that's more like the UK, less like the US, right?
Right.
So
But you have a person who's the poster boy or girl of that party, right? They're the ones that are leading that party.
correct,
Right,
yeah.
right, yeah.
But so and the Constitution says you have to have a election once every 5 years. So so what happens is usually when there's a big piece of legislation coming through and someone can't get it passed, then the government in charge, the government with the majority, the government who has the party that has the prime minister, they call an election
Right.
at an advantageous time where they think the country is in a position where they will get back in again and have another majority. So, but from the moment they call an election, they have to have the election. I think it's within 60 days. I wish I had someone fact checking this, but they have to have the election within like 60 days, and there's a cap on ad spend,
Mm.
and all the debates and stuff like that all have to happen within 60 days. So so it takes the big money right out of
Right
it.
out, yeah, yeah, and everyone has to play by the same rules.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's complete. I mean, if you're a billionaire, like, you're already halfway there.
You're on like a, and they campaign for presidential elections 2 years before the election.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So
It's
2
big
years of
old
just
talk.
noise.
Yeah, and it's such a vast country from east to west and middle America that, you can go to another state and you feel like you're in a completely different country in terms of maybe their values and culturally and, what their political views are, if they have any at all. Like you said, some people are just trying to live.
Yeah.
People are just trying to get to work and make money, provide for their families, and I think that, again, back to where that exhaustion, they're like, "Fuck this." It's I thought you said, America first. Uh,
I've never lived in a noisier country
yeah.
where so much is being said and nothing is being done or really
Mm.
like it's just so much mindless noise.
Yeah, and I have to remind myself there's so much I love about LA, but also to get out of it
Mhm.
because in itself, unconsciously, I can get wrapped up in the bubble as well. To your point earlier, what people do, feel, see, hear is completely different to anywhere in the United States, let alone the world.
Yeah.
And you can kind of get wrapped up in that bubble, and you need to get out now and then. And the people that don't, you can really, you know, tell who they are on a dinner table.
It's terrifying. Like nowadays I go out and if I have to go out and meet people, I'm really scared because I'm so nervous to sit down with someone who only gets their news from like
Right.
broadcast
You have
television.
to drop some serious truth bombs, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah, they're just not up
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. Look at this video on my phone.
And it's wild because these politicians, they're all getting older and clinging on to their seats and stuff like that. And they don't realize that everything they've ever said in their career has been videotaped. And when they
Right.
contradict themselves,
Yeah.
10 years later, it comes back to you and they just brush it off like nothing. They brush it off like the electorate are fucking sheep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point, that how that has changed, how phones and social media has changed, because they can just pull you up on the slightest thing now. You said this at this time, at this date. I can do it. It's terrifying. I
I,
can do it.
I couldn't either. Like, and I'm on a visa here and I can't vote because my visa means I'm just a visiting resident, right? Like a visiting worker. And so I don't have any voting rights, but like if I was voting and dedicating my whole life to living in the United States and if I had kids coming through school and stuff like that, like I would be just appalled by the state of the state.
Mm.
Like it's just it's beyond repair. Just who like these politicians, the way they talk, the arrogance,
Yeah.
the entitlement, they walk around like there's no consequences, and there are no
Yeah, I was
consequences.
about to say there aren't any consequences. That's the most terrifying thing, and it's become, yeah, the veil is off, right? I think that's what it is. You go, oh god, I thought it was a joke. I thought that was, like, but there are no fucking consequences
Yeah,
as long as you're in that, hold your title.
it's terrifying, man.
Yeah, it really is. And then by the time they've got now, they have enough cash and enough contacts to stay inside their white picket fence and just live out their days. I mean, that's what I see pretty much.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should move on to something a bit more brighter.
There. Glad we got that off our.
Yeah, yeah. So, where are you going next? If
Um,
if you are at all.
Yeah, so later this month I'm doing a little trek in California. It's about like a little 100-kilometer journey through the desert. That'll be nice.
Cool.
December, I'm going back down to Argentina for another like
I've
10-day
always
trip.
wanted to go there. I've never been. Really want to go.
I think I think South America is going to be the winner from all the global chaos that we're dealing with at the moment. So
Mm,
I have a theory. Europe is a total fucking basket case, even though most of the film industry is moving there. Like, if you're a 21-year-old or something like that in France or Germany or Italy, like your prospects for getting a great job and having a great life are pretty dismal, right?
yeah.
So I think like Europe is a mess. Immigration politics has destroyed it.
Mhm.
UK's all fucked up.
Yeah.
Middle East is the Middle East. You can go there if you like it. Tax-free jurisdictions, but you're dealing with some of the worst people in the world.
Mhm.
Asia's a mixed bag.
Mhm.
The United States is chaos. I really feel like places like Argentina, obviously they've got a new president who's trying to fix things.
Mm,
But I really feel like South America could be the big winner in what I see as a decade or two
mm.
of complete first world Western chaos.
Salvador. That's another one.
Salvador. I was in Ecuador. It was lovely. I've been to Panama before. But like Sao Paulo, Brazil, great city. Maybe crime is a little bit out of control, but the city itself is pretty nice.
Mhm.
Rio, again, crime could be an issue. But I really think like I've been all around Argentina and I've climbed in Argentina.
Mhm.
Like Buenos Aires is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like just after World War II, Argentina had a higher standard of living than Switzerland.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why all the Nazis escaped there to
Yeah.
hide because it was such a nice place to live.
Yeah.
But I think that's coming back. Like it might be a decade away, but I really think like because of all the garbage politics that's going on in the West,
Mhm.
the Northern Hemisphere West,
Mhm.
I really think like maybe the next 2 or 3 decades could be South America's chance to revive itself.
Great. Let's go.
Yeah, it's not bad, right?
Yeah. It's interesting. I was doing some research for a project and whereby there's evidence, supposedly, you'll be able to tell me, perhaps, that Argentina was once part of Antarctica and then it split off. We're talking pre-Columbus time.
Yeah,
You
so
know,
if you look at the west coast of Africa and the east coast of South America, they were absolutely connected because the
yeah,
the west coast of Africa kind of bulges out right where the
right.
east coast of Argentina kind of. So that was all connected, and I think also Antarctica was connected to the bottom of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Antarctica is supposedly also I thought it was just one huge island, but apparently it's 2 very close together. Am I right or
Yeah, so it's its own continent.
right,
So there's land underneath all that ice, and I
yeah,
heard it's broken up into a few different bits,
yeah,
but it's considered to be like one one continent. But I believe, yeah, there's some cracks
yeah.
and things like that that may be a few kilometers here and there, but I believe it's all kind of one continent. And I've never been. I'm super
I've
excited to
never
try to
been.
go.
I'm fascinated by it,
Mm.
and obviously, the treaty that, whereby I think most countries have a part of it. Isn't that right? That obviously most first world countries do.
There's a
Antarctica's treaty back in whenever it was created, where everyone gets a part of it, and it's supposedly again a neutral space, right?
Yeah, so you're supposed to be allowed to conduct scientific studies in Antarctica
Which
like
is
this.
absolutely bullshit because it's littered with military bases and scientific project. There's a lot going on there.
But they're not allowed to extract minerals. I think that's the big issue. That's the
Right.
contract that everyone signed back
Okay.
in the day.
The, I do believe there's something under all that ice.
Mhm.
There's no way the amount of money that's being pumped into there, the amount of bases that are there, scientific bases, and the lack of cameras there. And supposedly there was a skiing team. I can't remember where they're from. An extreme skiing team sponsored by Red Bull or something. And they were down there, and suddenly they were inundated with black helicopters, picked up, blindfolded, told never to return to this area, and dumped off at some kind of port. Um,
Sounds like a script for one of your films.
well, you say that. But, yeah, apparently this has happened a few times, and explorers like yourself, stepped over the mark. It's the same thing as what happens when people try to it's not the same, but, like Area 51 back in the day where people were trying to get close to it, and they just kept land grabbing, so that area is just huge.
Yeah.
If you step over a certain mic, suddenly 20 agents pop up and kindly say, turn around and go the other way.
I haven't heard that. I have to check that out.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 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 it's happened a lot.
Mm.
Yeah, my latest project is bound around kind of UAPs and 90 years of kind of disclosure.
Yeah.
So I had to do a lot of research for it because we're involving actual events. It's based on actual events and scenarios over a 90-year span from 1933 to 2023.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of content, and Antarctica came up, and of course, a lot of stuff happened in Europe, also around the World War One, World War Two, and the blueprint of what puts it all together from World War Two, especially like the German scientists coming over to America and creating from what we can tell in terms of the CIA and the three-letter agencies and scientific projects and wars always cause an advance and an acceleration in technology.
Yeah. Because
And
so many resources piled in.
right, and they're trying to beat each other. They're trying to be dominant. And again, I think that's what we're seeing now as well. And again, I think it's slowly. Um, they're trying to just drip feed it out,
Yeah.
with this whole thing with the drones going on and people seeing so many more, in a sense, what we would call UFOs or UAPs. And it's becoming quite normalized now.
Sure.
They're not dumbing it down like they used to and calling you, a fool, or it's kind of frowned upon. And, now it's quite acceptable. And there's so many credible people coming out, like David Grush, who was, and the disclosure for UAPs in 2023. So I find it a fascinating project, and it seems to be linked to back. If you trail it back, it's all linked to elites, the power, the money, technology,
Sure.
yeah, it just goes on and on and on, and you realize, you know, the what we've been talking about, how we've been lied to,
Mm.
how we've been dumbed down, and what it did for me, it stilled me because you go, God, this whole thing's a fucking game.
Yeah.
Life really. There's a small portion of people, the elites, the very, very elites, that by the way, we don't even know who they are.
Yeah. Because they don't run countries. They hide in the
No,
background.
they're smart.
Yeah.
They're the puppeteers,
Yeah.
who've been running this game for a very, very long time. So I think, what's about to come out in the next, I'll call it from the next in the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's going to change the whole way that we look upon life
Mm.
and how we live it. And I think a lot of people are going to be really fucking upset and shocked because really we have been living a lie. Um, that doesn't mean life isn't great, and we get so much out of what we do, whether it be work or family, but what the possibilities are of who we are in this planet and human consciousness.
Yeah. I think so there's two things I've kind of figured out for myself, and people, might take they might be sensitive to what I'm about to say, but I think that there were previous generations of humans that were as advanced as us,
Mhm.
and they were wiped out by some natural disasters, maybe
Yes.
an asteroid or whatever. But I believe, because archaeologists and historians, they kind of go back, 11,000 years ago or something like that. And they're like, and then they don't really have anything to say for anything beyond that.
All right.
But I think there was something that happened then. And then I believe like we had advanced civilizations before that that were wiped out. And we might have had multiple versions of ourselves for millions of years that have always been kind of wiped out. And we never became kind of interplanetary.
Mm.
That's one thing I think more and more of every day. And then the other thing I think of is like, there's no way we're alone in this massive solar system. So,
Absolutely.
so the question is like, who's watching us and when, and then, when you take into consideration, all these flying objects in the sky, you know, um, maybe there's architectural finds in Antarctica. I think they just found like a pyramid in Antarctica, actually.
Yes, they
That was,
did. Yeah,
yeah,
it was on Google Maps and then suddenly it got taken down.
there you go. Right.
So that's you know, that's evidence of, like I said, an intelligent ancient civilization
Yeah.
that was there prior and
Prior to the ice age.
prior to the ice age.
Yeah.
And we still can't explain certain things like the pyramids in Egypt and how it was built and how they use those huge fucking stones, and they apparently move them from here to. We still can't explain all this stuff and how it mathematically. It's absolutely on the money in terms of, isn't it, that it points true north, and it's just they still can't explain this. So,
Mhm.
to your point, I think you're onto something for sure.
Well, it's interesting because, like, if you do think of history being, millions or even billions of years old and having other advanced civilizations before us, then that kind of puts our contribution, maybe make it a little less or maybe even more important. But also too, if you think about, people from other planets visiting us, or life on other planets, then it totally throws religion out the door. So
Yeah.
it's like if you have,
Scares people.
yeah, and
Yeah.
and of course, like all those, like politics, religion, and sports,
Mhm.
those are the three things that are supposed to distract us and keep us all in
Right.
line from asking like big questions.
Yeah.
And if you take away, if you start talking about ancient civilizations, like maybe there was a civilization a million years ago that was as advanced as ours, and they made it to the moon, and maybe they made it to Mars,
Mm.
and then maybe the civilization on Earth died out, and then the civilization
What
on
do you
Mars.
think about the moon? Do you think it's actually what we think it is?
I mean, it's an object that rotates around the Earth in the Earth's gravitational field, and I mean, it could have been colonized previously.
Yeah. It's interesting, again, back to my research, I discovered that allegedly, on the dark south side, that there's a huge city there that China has set up some time ago. Also, apparently, and this is apparently been proven, that it's hollow.
The moon.
The moon is hollow inside because they've been able to, through their research and satellite systems, to be able to detect that it's actually hollow in comparison to the other moons that, um, that revolve around Saturn and whatnot. So it's really interesting, like, about all this evidence that's coming forth, and I just don't know what to think of it. Sometimes I go down the rabbit hole and I'm in,
Mhm.
and then I have to pull back, and go, oh no, that can't be true, but maybe it is, because so many things that are coming out now, the lies and the cover-ups and, the conspiracies, and but actually the funny thing about conspiracies is when it actually turns to be true.
Most of them do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they really do.
I just the thing about where we are today is just the lies. Like I cannot stand listening to someone talk who's already been bought and sold by a big corporation.
Yep.
And obviously that happened a lot during COVID, and that really kind of made me disgusted. And then the other thing too is just the constant lying about like where we are in this universe and what's really going on, and how, I mean, is there going to be mass chaos if we, if this three-eye atlas thing that's currently like rotating around the sun and going to pass by us, or something, like if that's a actual foreign made, spaceship or object, that was created by people in another solar system, like, is that really going to turn all the civilizations in the world, in our Earth, like into absolute chaos overnight?
Right, and also, or is it, or are these things, whatever it is, uh, did they make us?
Right.
Because another part of my research was like, well, asking constantly why, but why, but why? And when you grind it down, you're like, well, then we were created. Now, going back to your point about religion, which really scares people, which I understand, because I actually think faith is great and it's a good thing, and it motivates people and it secures them. And
Yeah,
I
it's
understand.
safe to hold on to it,
It's
Nate.
safe to hold on. I get it. I understand it. And collectively, you go somewhere to worship something together. I don't find that a bad thing. I think out of it comes many good things, but also it's also responsible for most wars, most conflicts. If you provide evidence that that is just a fabrication,
Mhm.
yes, I do think on a world scale that there will be a huge collapse, because it would just, the whole thing's a lie.
A billion Christians globally.
Yeah. I mean, it and I think that's what they, I will say they, whoever they are afraid of. They have to drip feed this thing out, because if you know, you know. And if all this is just a fucking game to
Mm.
keep us busy while they just crack on, um, yeah, that's a pretty big shock to the system.
I'm loving this research you're getting into with your writing. Like, you're definitely asking some big questions.
Oh yeah, it's part of my love for it. Picking certain subject matters, and either they'll come to me or I'll go chasing them because of my interest. But Especially on this one, I had to do a lot of research and interview a lot of people and try and get a general understanding of really what's going on. And this one's really exciting, of course, because it spans such a huge time period. So then you can start to connect the dots, 1920s to now, how relevant what happened then is happening now, and how they're all connected, and through what people and families and money and corporations and governments. It's yeah, it becomes very interesting. Then you start to ask the really big questions, which are really scary.
Mhm.
And actually, when you do connect the dots, you go, well, actually, these actually make sense. They add up. And many people don't have time to do that. So I'm lucky in one sense because it's kind of part of what I do in my job.
Yeah, we're all too busy hustling and trying to eat.
Of course, and they wanna keep us like that. That
Yeah.
was what came up in all connecting the dots. They're like, I'm like, "Oh, fuck, this the jobs are just fucking created to and taxes and, okay, they're earning a bit too much. We've got to tax them or else they're gonna be, like, too powerful and they're gonna have too much time off, so they're gonna start thinking."
Mm.
We don't want them to think. And also, our education hasn't really changed that much over a span of, what, 100 years?
Yeah.
Because they just want you to be a good worker. You want you to go to a corporation, work well, and turn up on time and wear this, do this.
They
Um
don't teach you how to balance a budget. They don't teach you how to live on a budget. They don't teach you about
it's really
credit
about
card debt.
money,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right? It's all about, working for corporations.
Well, that's why Mandani got elected in New York. It's just because, like,
Oh, yeah,
because
I
all
saw
these
that.
all these young people are coming out of school with no jobs,
Mm.
with $500,000 in debt,
Debt, yep,
with credit card debt at 30%,
yeah.
and they're looking around and there's no opportunities, and they're just like, "Fuck whatever came before this because this is shit."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're the guys, what, 3, 4, 5 years ago,
Mhm.
who undertook whatever they're gonna study at university,
Yeah.
and the world has completely changed and probably wiped out, especially if they're into tech or some kind of coding or that's dependent on that kind of technology is gone.
Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, who's making all these AI chips, his company's doing really well at the moment. Maybe a bubble, maybe not, who knows? But he was saying that the next round of millionaires in the U.S. economy will be plumbers and electricians.
I did hear this, yes, which makes me smile because my dad was a fabricator, so I come from a very practical upbringing. And I'm also, I'm a co-founder in a company that's works in construction as well.
Mm.
So I think they're so valuable, and I think, like I said, to my point, it's the it's the difference of what happened with the radio and TV and internet, where those kind of jobs were affected, and now I think they're going to see their day in the sun.
Yeah.
Um, and so they should, because everyone needs a roof over their head. So you either need maintenance or rich people want to build, developers want to build. So yeah, I think I saw a clip of something where one of the ex Google chiefs said, if you want to have a job and be in employment and earn actually good money the next 10 years, be a plumber, be an electrician.
Pretty smug for a billionaire to lay that down.
Exactly. Yeah. They all do that, don't they? Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that. While you just sit back and sip your coffee on your yacht. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting time. The tables are turning. And I also have a friend, you know, back to my point about the industry collapsing here, also in New York. A friend of mine just got let go out of I won't mention his name or the network, but a very big network. And he's very high up, vice president, and he just got let go. So I don't think anybody's safe, and I think that's why, not that I saw any of this coming. I'm not that smart, but why I've always worked for myself.
Yeah.
And there's been very hard times in doing that, as you will understand. But nobody controls what I do, and in a sense, my income. So if you can get to that point, which I think that's where everybody's going, a lot more people are working from home. They are able to set up some kind of platform, service, or product in and put it on their social media.
Mhm.
I think that's probably where we're going.
Yeah.
And we're just going to start trading services and time through a smaller network of platforms on a massive scale over social media and different platforms. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting time.
And I think being globally mobile is the way to avoid the shit show in the future too. Like, I really feel like, I lived in China for 18 years. I was really lucky I left before COVID. I don't think I would have survived like a 4-year lockdown in China. I think I would have lost my mind. I was in the Middle East for a while, and then, and then Dubai became like little Moscow because of the war with Ukraine.
Yeah.
And the whole vibe there just changed overnight, and I just didn't like it. So I left there. Then, I kind of end up here for a bit. And it's interesting. Like, I see all these, stories on social media, and then also in news magazines and travel magazines and stuff like that. It's like, can you afford to leave the United States? Or like, if you're Canadian, can you afford to leave Canada? And I'm like, everyone can afford to do it. Like,
Yeah.
the world out there is much cheaper than what we're
Oh,
doing here.
fuck yes.
And it's just like, do you have a schooling, plan for your kids? You know, do, are you ready to live in a country that doesn't speak English as a first language and all that kind of stuff? But the world out there is kind of operating at a normal level at the moment.
Yes.
And I think that, like, the US is probably the most technologically advanced country in the world, at least where the technology is being created, not necessarily implemented.
Right.
Because if you go to the DMV or you try to do government services, it's a fucking joke. But if you do them in Singapore or the UAE, for example, or Hong Kong, like, it's really technically advanced there.
Yeah.
But it just like, but the rest of the world is going to take whatever happens in the United States with AI or people losing their jobs and things like that. It's going to take the rest of the world like decades to catch up. So,
Really?
if you're 20 years old right now, and this is like my advice, and I did this when I was 22, so I've lived it.
Mm.
Like, if you're 22 years old and you're looking around and nothing excites you, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like, go to Nepal, go to India, go to Bhutan, go to Pakistan, go to New Zealand, like, just go
Mm.
and find something that turns you on in another part of the world, because I feel like whatever is going to happen that's going to happen terribly in the next 10 or 20 years for workers and employment and the way governments are run, it's going to happen in the United States first and then disseminate elsewhere.
Right.
um, and it's quite obvious that the US government doesn't give a shit about its electorate or its citizens. So I just feel like whatever is going to happen is going to be business first and citizens second. So in that sense, you might as well go to a country, that's developing, and where people still have to respect their electorate and their citizens,
Right.
and just cozy in there, get a work visa, and build a life abroad, and you can do that at a really cheap
Yeah.
rate.
In comparison to
Yeah.
living in America, or especially in California, I mean, it's very expensive to live. And I've seen it personally, and I've seen some stats where it seems like a lot more Americans are leaving the country, let alone the states. But they're moving around a lot more,
Yeah.
and with that comes perspective.
Yeah.
Different people, different cultures, different way of living. Especially if you live in California. You're even experiencing seasons. Move to the East Coast and it's fucking freezing over the winter.
Yeah.
Kind of just changes your mindset of how you maneuver and how you live your life,
Mm.
where you live. So I think that's great advice. I think you're right. There's probably going to be more of that, and where that goes, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I said, I don't think we can predict much at the moment. Um, just hold on tight.
Yeah, it's a wild one, like, because I think the demise of Europe started much earlier. And I remember during COVID, for example, Europe was losing, there was some statistic like every quarter, Europe was losing something like 50,000 millionaires
Mm.
were leaving the EU
Mhm.
and the UK
Mhm.
for Dubai.
Right.
Now, Dubai's a tough place to live. Not everyone likes it. There's a certain culture there. There's a certain way of life there. There's a lot of undesirables there because they don't have extradition treaties with places. So you can go do something terrible in one part of the world and then move to Dubai and hide there and have a totally normal life. So you're kind of rubbing shoulders with arms dealers and
Right.
international criminals and stuff like that. And that's definitely part of what's going on in Dubai.
Yeah.
But but they were losing. Europe was in such a bad way, and they were so blindsided by COVID,
Mhm.
and they were drinking their own Kool-Aid, that people were just leaving in mass droves. And then, of course, you set up in Dubai, and then you can travel all around the world because you don't really have to live there to be a resident there.
Right.
And there's certain advantages, and of course, it's tax free.
Yeah.
So you pull yourself out, and that was kind of the situation in 2020, 2021, 2022. And then now I just read a story like Swiss family offices are moving out of Zurich and Geneva and Zug and Gstaad and all these tax havens and stuff like that. And all these Swiss family offices are moving to Dubai now and to be part of the DIFC, the Dubai International Financial Center. And they're setting up shop there because it's tax free and like
Right.
you can you know there's no capital gains taxes, et cetera, et cetera. And then you can have your high net worth individuals who travel a lot anyways
Yeah.
become kind of stateless.
Yeah.
They'll be here for a month or two, here for a month or two, here for a month or two. They'll be on their yacht, whatever. As long as you don't spend like 6 months or something like that in another third country or a second country, you can kind of maintain that status. And people are doing this in droves. And it used to be like the dodgy guys, the arms dealers, and whatever that ended up in Dubai. And now it's like the super legitimate family offices and the massively high net worth people are starting to make waves over there too.
It's interesting, fascinating.
Right.
'Cause, all of this makes me sometimes just want to live off grid, no phone, no nothing, just let it all go. Do you ever feel like that?
I don't have enough money yet.
Yeah, but quite simply, like,
What's your number?
yeah, what's your number? What's your number? But it does drive me to that point. Like, forget all of this. Yeah, I just can't see where it's going. But I see a lot more people seem to be interested in that in terms of wanting to live off grid and be self sufficient. And understand. Again, I think it's going full circle again. I think we're going to learn how to perhaps even grow vegetables ourselves. Maybe understand how to build and live off grid a little bit
Go
more.
back to basics.
Go back to basics. Yeah, I think some people are going to have to. You know.
I was watching, I was watching, I saw this meme the other day, and there was a really great movie, fuck, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, with Val Kilmer in it. It was called The Saint. And Val Kilmer was a cat burglar, like assassin.
Oh, I know of it. I don't think I've seen it though.
So there's this one scene where he finishes a job and gets paid, and he opens up his laptop, and the money comes in for the payment, and it says like $48.5 million, and he's like, I just got to get to 50, and then I can retire. And some days I feel like that, not necessarily in the same monetary value, but it's like, okay, I just need a little bit more, and then maybe I can like really go off grid and retire.
Yeah.
And then just actually before you came, I saw this ad for like because I have my phone with me all the time and I talk with people, like I get all these ads. So there's this like ranch in Montana, and it's like 100,000 acres or something like that. It was like $50 million, and that made me connect it with the Saint and Val Kilmer's movie. And it's like I just need $50 million so I can buy the ranch. But the ranch was so you grew up abroad, so you know kilometers.
Yeah.
So it's basically 350 kilometers square.
Fuck. Okay.
Yeah. So
Thick.
like when I think about hiking, that's like it would take you like 25, 30 days to walk across your own property.
Yeah. Incredible.
Okay, I could like set up there in Wyoming or Montana if I had that kind of space and turn off the phone
And
and
that kind of money.
yeah. Yeah, and that kind of
But
money.
once you buy it, then you have to maintain it. You have to, it's a lot.
It's a lot, but how fun would that be?
Oh, it'd be phenomenal. Actually, talking of, I think I saw you were talking about Russell Crowe earlier. I think he owns some kind of ranch back in Australia.
He does. He has a huge.
Yeah, 'cause I think he grew up in the country in New Zealand. I think that's what And he said, he bought a whole ranch there, and I think he escapes there, just switches off.
Yeah.
I think that's his downtime.
Yeah, that's exactly where he was going after he left Austin and he left Rogan and he was headed back there. And he's like, I've got 3 months, and no one's gonna bother me. No one's gonna do anything because he was saying he made like 5 movies in the last 12 months and he's a bit fried. And he just needs some downtime, and that's where he goes back and just turns off and rides his ATV all around his property and just kicks back.
I love it.
All right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's the way to live. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well,
Interesting.
well, America's like one of the few places left. I think Australia and the United States are probably. I don't know about Africa. I haven't traveled enough, and I don't know enough about it. But like the continent of Africa, of which there are many countries, but the countries of the United States and Australia, I think, are still probably two of the places where you can buy huge amounts of land and just kind of disappear. And there's something really intoxicating about that.
Yeah, I think it's built into us. I think it's in. I think we're hardwired. We've moved so far, or a lot of us have moved so far away of being self-sufficient. But there is something in us where we're so connected to the earth. It's like when you get off an airplane, you ground yourself. If you go walk bare feet on a beach or the grass, there's a frequency in the earth that connects with us and it grounds us,
Yep.
and we feel a lot more calm. We
Electrical impulses.
electrical impulses. So we are very much connected to it, and they say you should get your hands dirty. I mean, literally get in the dirt and have it around you. And we have. I think this is what COVID did. I think we moved so far away from it. We have to cleanse and put masks on, and then more people died. More people got even more ill.
By design, it feels like.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's yeah.
That's why I go hiking and climbing all the time. Like, I'll go away for 8 or 10 days,
Mm.
and you're camping, you're sleeping, you're going to bed at 6 p.m. when the sun goes down, you're waking up at 5 a.m. when the sun comes up, like, you're living with the rhythm of the earth,
Cycle, yeah.
and you feel so fucking good.
Yeah.
And you're burning, you're walking 8 or 10 hours a day, you're burning 3-4,000 calories, you're eating pretty minimal, and you're drinking tons of water, and you're just out in nature, and when I come back, that high, those endorphins last about a week,
Mm.
and then it's just a huge crash and depression, and because 'cause you're in a concrete jungle and you're surrounded by fucking idiots,
Yeah.
and you're listening to honking horns all the time and all this shit, and then all you're doing is planning the next time you can try to go out, and that's, like, my entire life.
Yeah, yeah. And I wonder whether it's also an age thing as well. As you get older, you want more and more of that because again, we are as a body, as a physical body, going full circle.
Yep.
You're coming back. You're a lot more conscious of how you feel, what makes you happy, where you want to be, and that always seems to me to be closer to nature, closer to water, be in peace. I do love. I lived in London for a very long time, like central London. Horns all the time. There's something exciting about that, especially when you're in your 20s.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, you're performing in the West End.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, and I was right in the heart of Covent Garden 24/7 for many, many years, and I loved it. It really filled me up. But there's no way I could do that now. I couldn't live. I'd have to be. Yeah, it'd be insane for me. I just couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to sleep. My whole rhythm would be off. It's
Mm.
funny how as you get older, again this whole rhythmic cycle of coming back to ourselves. Um,
Do you remember Skyfall, James Bond?
yeah.
Yeah. The Skyfall Ranch in Scotland?
Yes. Yeah. Where's
I
it
wanna
where he
live
grew up?
there, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That house looks pretty fucking depressing, but
Yeah. But just that
and they
just the
shot it up to shit.
They did, they fucked it up. But just that nature, by the river surrounded by mountains,
Mhm.
isolation in the middle of nowhere, just waking up every morning, have a coffee, looking out and seeing just nature. No one
Yeah.
no one within, I mean, obviously, if you have a family, that's tough. If you have medical issues at some stage, that's tough. But I fully believe we are 5 years away from, having Starlink in every rural home,
Mm.
and then being able to chat with doctors being like, "Oh, I need some medicine," and then having them just send a drone out and be like,
Sure.
"The drone will be there in an hour,
Yeah.
drop off the bag on your
Right.
doorstep, and then go back." And I'm just like, there's gonna be nothing. I think in the next 5 years, there's gonna be nothing holding people back, comfort-wise, from living totally in remote fucking places.
Right. But would that also then still, um, because you need money, you know, call the doctor on your Skylink to send the drone, and you
You gotta
still
have
it's
money.
still going to have a hierarchy system, aren't we? And I feel that that's going to get further and further apart.
Yeah.
It's like the film with Matt Damon, is it Elysium?
Elysium, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, where they're living up and they're just waiting for Earth to get better, and they're living up in the mothership,
Yeah.
and these fuckers are just on Earth, just like hustling it out, and it's funny how film and TV and books uh seem to predict the future pretty well, not on the money, but George Orwell,
I blame the writers.
nor yeah, blame the writers, right? Maybe it's being passed down, we're some kind of vessel, but a lot of them get it right. I was looking at Terminator the other day. I'm like, oh, you know what? If things go south, we're not that far away from that.
Mhm.
Because apparently they can't control these fucking AI robots anymore. They are their own selves. They're speaking to each other,
Mhm.
and then they start speaking some different language that we can't understand because they realize that we're listening and they want to advance and move a lot faster than we can. So that's pretty fucking scary.
Well, Elon was on Joe Rogan like a week ago,
Mhm.
just doing a bit of an update about Doge and stuff like that, and Tesla, and he was basically saying like, he basically said like, you know, humans love chimpanzees
Right,
and monkeys because they're cute,
right.
and we want to give them a good habitat, and we want to feed them, and we want to make sure that they're healthy and happy.
Mhm.
And he's like, that's probably the way AI is going to look at us. It's hopefully gonna be kind of benevolent and
Right.
treat us
Oh, I'm
treat us the same way that we treat kind of semi-wild or semi-domesticated animals, where they wanna keep us happy and kinda healthy, but just as long as we don't
actually.
as long as we don't try to run the show, everything will be fine.
Right.
And to hear, like, this, genius, the world's greatest engineer, The guy who's building everything for the future,
Right.
to have him say that out loud was kind of shocking.
Yeah, yeah. And it's the guy that's in the know because of what happened in terms of him running Doge, and then obviously things went a bit south there, and he got out.
Yeah. Do you hear what he said about Doge? He was saying,
I've seen very small clips in terms. He seems to be quite I don't know. Maybe he's trading carefully. I don't know.
well, because they went after Tesla stock.
Right. Okay.
And it tanked, right? So he's got too many business interests for half the country to shit on him.
Yeah.
But we can talk about it here because we can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
But until YouTube cancels us. But it's funny because he was saying like this is a guy who sends rockets into space, and then when they come back to Earth, he built something that catches the rockets.
Right.
Okay, so easily like one of the greatest
Incredible.
engineers of all time.
Incredible and reusable. Right.
Reusable, yeah,
Yeah.
which is crucial for interplanetary travel, and it reduces the cost of sending stuff into space, et cetera, et cetera. But this guy who's building these rockets that come back to Earth and get caught, he said Washington is unfixable.
Whoa, fuck. Which I, once says I'm not surprised, but to actually hear it from him, you go, oh, it's fucking real.
And then he said half of the federal budget every year is waste. Like he said, like at least half. Like he said, like if he had like the power of God in his hand and he could do anything he wanted without any repercussions, he said like at least half of what the government spends every year is waste and fraud.
Fucking hell.
50%. So imagine, I'm not like if you live in California, like you're paying 50% tax if you're in a top tier bracket. Like imagine all of a sudden your tax rate went to 25%. And like what would that do to your lifestyle?
Right.
Or if you're in Texas or Florida or Nevada or Washington State where there's no state tax and the federal tax drops in half, or the business taxes drop in half, or there's no capital gains tax. Like you could turn. I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like you could turn the United States into Switzerland
Yes.
overnight.
Yeah. Really good.
You just fucking get rid of the waste,
Yeah.
clean up the food
Yeah.
supply,
Yeah.
and you're home free. And this could be a fucking powerhouse of a
But
country.
half that budget is somewhat dark and a lot of people's paychecks, so they don't want to.
Yeah.
So you have to get rid of the blueprint of those generations. And like you said, they're going to hang on until they have to retire to make sure they get the pension. But I don't even know if pensions are really that available anymore because
they're garbage.
They're garbage, and they seem to be slowing down because, I know in the UK, a lot of people had letters. My mum and dad, they've got a bunch of pensions. They still work, but after their generation, it's been decreasing and decreasing. There's just not the money in the bank.
We're not going to be able to retire.
No.
No.
You have to be like, again, back to being self-sufficient. But the fact that he said that it's half the budget because that's a fucking massive budget.
I think it's $4 trillion a year.
Yeah, most of it's spent on, a lot of it's spent on military. Yeah. Because the United States is still the dominant force, I believe, in terms of not boots on the ground, but numbers, right?
The two biggest line items in the U.S. Federal budget. Number one is debt payments bond treasury payments.
Yeah.
And that's number one. Number two is defense, and those two items take almost $2 trillion a year.
Yeah. But also they also know that they can't pay off this debt, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the whole idea of tariffs. That's the whole idea of trying to. It's interesting. Like, if we double everyone's tariffs, does that money go to the deficit, and does that even make a dent?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Barely.
Yeah.
Hence why I see a lot of indication in them trying to move the currency into something like crypto.
Yeah. Crypto could wipe out the deficit, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah. There's been a lot of talks about that.
Yeah, I don't really know much about crypto. I don't really understand it to a certain point. I haven't had to yet, but maybe that day is coming where you're gonna have to.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
well, if the governments keep going the way they are, and keep treating us like complete idiots, and keep devaluing our currency, and keep
there's a real good chance.
I mean, I think like, it's terrifying. Bitcoin's quite special because no one really controls it, but all the other kind of digital assets, like they're controlled by companies basically, right?
But if the government gets involved, surely then it will be controlled or
That's the idea, right? But it's funny, like when you think about like a stable coin, so like there's a stable coin called Tether, USDT. And and in the digital currency world, that's a 1-to-1 to the US dollar. So if you sell out your Bitcoin, you can convert that Bitcoin into USDT, and then you can hold USDT and hold that value pegged to the US dollar
Right.
before you want to go back into Bitcoin, for example, which flows on a different schedule,
Yeah.
on a different rate. But USDT is actually a super transparent company, and every digital dollar that they put into the ecosystem of digital assets, that is backed by US treasuries. So if USDT puts $1 trillion of digital US dollars, USDT into the marketplace,
Yeah.
that's backed by $1 trillion worth of government paper. So that's great, but then it's like, okay, but what is the US dollar really worth,
Worth. Yeah.
right? Because like I have some friends in Switzerland and they were saying like, oh my God, like the US dollar is so cheap. And I'm like, what do you mean the US dollar is so cheap? And he's like, yeah, US dollars dropped by 15% against the Swiss franc in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And you don't feel that in the United States because we're doing, you know, better than the Canadians, for example. The Canadian dollar is falling
Yeah.
against the US dollar. But it's funny that the Swiss franc and the Swiss government is so well run that the Swiss franc is actually increasing against the US dollar while all this shit's going on.
Yeah, my nephew works in finance. He was saying the same thing. The US dollar is really dropping. A lot of people are pulling it out of their businesses or their investment portfolios,
Yeah.
which is a clear sign.
Do you remember when the pound used to be like 2-to-1 to the US dollar?
I love those days.
How good was traveling?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's why a lot of people came to America, and then they'd go shopping basically.
Yeah.
But now it's a very different scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting watching this all unfold. Some of what being part of it, especially with the fires. Yeah, I'm when I arrived in LA 10 years ago, it was a very different place, and it seems as soon as I arrived, hopefully it was nothing to do with me. You sedated it. It just went downhill because that's when obviously soon after that was COVID and I just think economically and leadership wise, it started to have trouble. And, obviously then there was a big turn in events with federal government. Yeah, but it's part and parcel of my journey.
Yeah.
And that's back to your point of why people should travel. And if they can have the opportunity, live in another country, another city, I think it builds character. I think it really mirrors who you are. And it builds mental and physical strength in a way because you have to go through things that you wouldn't normally have to go through, and especially going to an extreme level, what you do,
Yeah.
going on treks, where you really do are probably faced with a lot of scenarios where you have to survive. You're going through extreme weather. It somehow, I don't know. Maybe it's the aftermath of it, communicates it to you. It's like working out, you go, "All right, fuck it, I'll go to the gym, I'll push through," and you go and lift weights, and it's hard, and it's exhausting, but then after you get home, have a shower, there's this internal reward system,
Yeah.
and it just makes you I'm reluctant to say it makes you better, but I think it does. But I think it makes you more um, adaptable to the world, and it gives you a higher chance of survival, and depending on who you are and whatever you do. So maybe we will see more of people traveling, maneuvering around, understanding other people, other cultures. Maybe all that will calm things down because at the moment everyone seems to be pegged against each other,
Yeah.
and the only communication or what they are seeing is ring fenced by social media. Like I said, I think mass media is dead, but they're still pushing it, and there is still an audience of that then filters down. It's like the grandparents, or my mum and dad. They'll constantly just watch BBC News,
Mhm.
so whatever they're telling me is just off BBC. I'm just like I don't want to hear it because I don't watch that.
Totally co-opted.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mm.
and I'm just like I always try and say to them, you need to have a diverse point of view, which they never. But they're just stuck in their ways. They're old. It's fine.
Mm.
But watch Al Jazeera, then watch BBC, then watch Fox, then watch CNBC, then go on these channels on YouTube and watch independent journalism,
Yeah.
and then you've got a cross reference, and then make up your mind, or at least then have an opinion of what you think about that.
Right.
Because it's very different. But it goes back to time, doesn't it? People are busy.
People are lazy.
Yeah, people are lazy, busy. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I think the best thing people can do these days is voluntarily do things that are hard, right? Like you mentioned, climbing mountains, going to the gym, going outside,
yeah.
pushing yourself in nature, and then also too, like I feel like the passport that we use to get through life is our story. And I think the more you travel and the more you experience life and things like that, the better story you have and
Yeah.
the better perspective you have. And I think that'll do better for you as you work your way through this life and through this world, better than any university degree.
Yeah, yeah. And which is interesting right now because of what's happening with immigration, and tightening borders. Um, whether that increases the chance of people getting out, maneuvering, or they are they have no choice but to stay. Then in terms of their generational output, do they have to stay? And what happens? There's a lot of people that stay in one place and generations of that family stay in one place and they don't maneuver from there because not because I don't think they don't want to, but, because economically they can't,
Yeah.
and that's where we find ourselves back to, why this southern border here down into, past Texas and, San Diego is so fought after, and such a sensitive spot. But if you look at the history of it, it's interesting that, obviously California originally was part of Mexico,
Yeah.
and then they took it over, and then
They
long
they bought it.
they bought it, and then a long time after that, it was farmland that produced, a lot of crops where they needed Mexicans to cross the border to come up and work in that season. Then they would go back down, take that money, and take it back to their families. Happened for a very long time until they were producing so much that those people thought, "You know what? It's a really fucking long trip, pretty precarious. I'm just gonna stay."
Yeah.
So we needed them. So it goes back to everything that's happening right now. Everybody's looking at it like kinda like this instead of, like, zooming out at 30,000 feet and go, "Well, what's the history of this?
Mhm.
Let me take it back at least 100 years." You have to, I think, or at least 50 to understand why has it got to this point? This didn't just happen. It goes over generation. It's built up. It's like boiling under the bonnet, and then suddenly a war breaks out, a thing breaks out, and then people just focus on that. And because, back to mass media, that's what sells.
Yeah.
And we look at the negativity of it, well, there should be, and I think there is, especially on YouTube. I think that's what it does really well. Independent journalism and people like yourself, getting a much more focused, real, raw point of view. People have actually been there.
Mhm.
They've spoken to the people. They've understood the terrain, and then they bring that story back, and then we can learn from people like yourself and other independent journalism and adventurers and explorers. Hopefully we're going that way. And platforms like YouTube and certain social media platforms are really, really important for that. But again, I hear through the grapevine that they're also getting kind of, they have a lot of ring fences of rules of what you can and can't do. And
Well, even during COVID, I mean, people were getting their videos demonetized. People were getting kicked off and banned from YouTube for saying, in hindsight, mostly what was true,
Right,
and
right.
YouTube was just drinking their own Kool-Aid as well, from whatever the government was selling or whatever the pharmaceutical companies were selling. And it's interesting, like I've recently just got a year. It's funny, like I now put almost all of my shows that I make and stuff like that, my podcast out on YouTube.
Mhm.
But it was only like a month ago or so where I bought YouTube Premium because I couldn't handle the pharmaceutical ads on YouTube, and the political ads on YouTube. So there's this big vote for the Prop 50 to redistrict all the electoral districts in California and stuff like that. And this kind of stuff was coming up like every hour, like I was watching
Inundated.
three political, and I got so sick of it that I had to just turn it off, or I had to pay to get out of the advertising.
Ways to get out of
And
it.
that's such a funny thing to have to think of, but it got so bad. And it's like, if YouTube is really going to be the the platform for education moving forward,
Mhm.
they really need to tighten up what goes out on that platform and really treat it like the best that linear media ever was
Yeah.
and the best that the future digital broadcasting could ever be.
Mm.
And I don't think they're anywhere near that yet. I think they're a money-making machine, but I don't think anyone's really thinking about what legacy YouTube has the potential to really leave as being maybe one of the only truthful media sources that are available because everyone out there is independent. Like, so I follow this guy, Johnny Harris,
Oh, yes, I know of him. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he did some great work. Yeah.
He's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything he says,
No, me too, but he
but he lays it out in a way that allows you to agree or disagree with him, and he shows you everything that's there,
yeah.
and he takes, like, a big topic like immigration or ICE or the Panama Canal or whatever,
Mhm.
whatever, and he's a Mormon, and he's had his fucking crazy past,
Yeah.
and he's come through it, and he's, like, got a really interesting perspective,
Mm.
but and I just love the effort
Yes,
that he's going
yes.
out there making these videos, he's traveling to these countries
Yeah.
to report, and he's doing such a better job than every major media organization, like legacy media organization in the world.
Yeah.
And, like, it's inspiring to see someone work that hard to try to be that to make that balanced argument.
Yes, yes, and like you said, like I said, I don't agree with everything that he puts across, but he lays it out in such a way you're able to maneuver around it to make up your own mind.
Right.
And I think he even himself says, this is only this portion of it, and this is what I'm focusing on, and this is why.
Yeah.
So in a sense, he's allowing you to make up your own mind. But it's really great reporting. He's always like boots on the ground generally, and does heavy research and gets a good cross reference by what I can see of the people, possibly the organizations involved. More of that, please. Yeah,
Yeah.
more of that. I think that's really, to the point, educational, inspiring as well.
Sure.
And back to real journalism, you know, it seemed to have disappeared. But again, people need a paycheck. So it's like a lot of things right now. I can, if I zoom out and don't get emotional about it, I can see both sides. If I'm being black and white about it, I'm like, I understand what your motivation is. I understand what your motivation is. But for the better good of the future of the people, something needs to change.
I think I would love to see two things happen.
Mm.
One, get the pharmaceuticals companies out of advertising on television and out of advertising on digital platforms. I think that would be huge. And there's only two countries in the world that allow this to happen. It's us and the United States and New Zealand.
Mm. Which
So
is bizarre, New Zealand. I find that bizarre. It's like United States, I get it.
yeah,
I guess the fucking powerhouse, fucking, capitalism number one. And then there's New Zealand. I just think that's just, but I certainly don't know enough about their politics.
no, but they're whoever the pharmaceutical companies are in New Zealand are spreading the money around nicely.
Mhm,
Um, and then the other thing I think is if you are elected to a government office
mhm.
and you are caught profiting from your position in office, and I'm not talking about getting a book deal or doing a speaking tour, having Goldman Sachs pay you $500,000 to do a weekend retreat, that's all fine.
Mm.
But if you're using your government position to steal from taxpayer dollars,
Yeah.
I think this is going to sound drastic, but I think you should get the death penalty
Wow. That's huge.
because jail's not good enough.
Right.
Like, I mean, like,
Because
how do you,
it could be a real nice job.
it could be a really nice jail with a golf course.
Yeah.
Like, how do you really stop something like the entire government is a fraud?
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do you really stop something in its tracks? And it's like, how do you like, because no government official is ever going to vote for, something as drastic as what I just said. But jail's not an option, and they're never going to be thrown away, into jails for 20 years if they are judged by their peers because their peers are all doing the same thing as well. So it's this cozy little club where taxpayer dollars are being wasted. People like you and me are working our asses off to try to live in a city like Los Angeles, with high taxes. We're struggling in an industry that's struggling,
Mhm.
and then these people are just pissing money away, like billions and billions of dollars for a train that never was even built.
Yeah.
People like really, really smart people like Elon Musk saying half of the federal budget is waste and fraud. Like something has to give, right? So it's
Mm.
either like, I'm a Canadian, you're from the UK. Okay, we can leave.
Mhm.
You can go back to the
Yep.
UK. I probably go back to the UK before I went back to Canada. Go back to Scotland, find that Skyfall Ranch. But but it's just like, how do you stop whatever's going on in its tracks and say like this is no longer going to move forward? And I think there's no greater crime on this planet than being voted to serve the people and then to defraud them.
I agree. with pretty much everything you just said, but and how you do that, it has to be um extreme change.
It has to,
It
and
can't,
fast.
I was trying to think of like how you would, filter that down and get to a point where, but it has to be extreme change and pretty fast. How you do that, and I think they've made it purposefully so hard to change the rules and the terms and conditions of how you do things. In the White House and or Parliament. And as they
Oh, yeah,
also
4 years.
yeah, and they also talk about that, we have to carry on tradition. Well, not if it's fucking not working and it's terrible for the people, because the
Mm,
whole point the government set up was for the people.
mm,
And actually, um, the people, you know, they elected you. To your point, they own you. You're supposed to be working for them, not the other way around. So, yeah, it has to be, I think, extreme, harsh change and quickly, or else we just keep on keeping on. And I
which is
don't think
going
we
nowhere.
can, which is going nowhere, and
Mhm,
it's slowly slipping off the edge of a cliff. We can see it.
mhm.
Like I said, I've never seen so many protests and marches and violence, in my whole life as I have globally over the last year.
Yeah.
And it's got worse, really rapidly worse over the last kind of 3 to 4 months. It's just constant everywhere. Um, so it's either you do it now, come up with some common sense extreme change, or you watch it fall apart, and it will fall apart because it's in front of us. Yet, to your point about the elite system and the elites themselves, they seem to be escaping behind the scenes because they're not stupid. They see what's coming, and
Mhm.
they're responsible, and they know that, and there's consequences.
And they have their 350 square kilometer ranch in Montana to
Right.
retreat to.
And they have their planes and their yachts and their islands,
Right.
and that's where they're trying to get to and live a cushy life. And they probably have a lot of supplies to sit it out, as it were.
Zuckerberg's bunker in Hawaii.
Fuck yeah, and is that yacht the
Yeah.
size of a fucking yacht? It's like the size of a country. So yeah, I think you'd have to have extreme change and quickly, or else, like you said, probably in the next 5 years we're going to see massive change, and I don't think it's going to be that pretty. Um, yeah, like I said, you just can't predict it. But
It's gonna be great for writing though, isn't it?
oh fuck yeah, tons and tons of content, right?
Zombie apocalypse,
Yeah, it's
political failure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be good for storytelling, that's for sure. Looking back on history and this. But yeah, what's next? I don't know.
Okay, so, like, where are you work-wise these days? Because it's first of all, it's so nice to talk to someone who's not from the United States. Because it says because, like,
Let's
we
open with that.
yeah, because we can talk about so much more, and we've got such a wider perspective, and it's great to catch up, and
Yeah.
and it's also great because you write about a lot of the stuff that I'm really interested in,
Mm,
again, like UFOs and stuff like that's super cool, and
yeah.
previous civilizations and stuff like that. But so, where are you these days? So you've been in the United States for 10 years. You're a writer, you write screenplays for TV and film. Like, what's it been like the last year or two? What are you working on now?
Currently, I've just finished a new TV series, and it was what I was previously speaking about, mentioned. It's over a 90 year span. So we start in 1933.
It's
Um,
like a limited series?
it's a limited series. At this point, that's what we're pitching it as, and that's what the interest is. So it starts in 1933, fascist Italy. And it starts with a pregnant linguist, military linguist, who makes first contact with a non-human craft, which then spans a 90-year cover-up involving Nazi occult science, Vatican vaults, what is now become three-letter agencies, and then to present day, 2023, the UAP disclosure. But what we follow is her and her family because it's her bloodline that holds the key. But the battlefield is the mind, and what they want control of is human consciousness.
Wow.
So it's about human consciousness and what we've been suppressed basically, and we don't really understand the capacity we have as a human being and our consciousness. And it goes into many different factors across the 90 years, starting in 1933, and how the Germans and the Italians came together over this craft. The Americans actually stole from them after the war was won, and they brought it back to the United States, and then they became the powerhouse. And also, what they brought with them was a lot of very smart German scientists.
Is this loosely based on truth?
It's loosely based on truth. It's basically what I call a grounded sci-fi. So it is based on actual events. We have to be careful in some scenarios, but we're seeing it through the eyes of a family who are trying to actually get back to each other. Her husband was one of the scientists that worked on the Stargate program in Nazi Germany, and he's projected to 2023. She's left in 1933 with her daughter. They're trying to get back to each other, but through their eyes of all they care about getting back to each other is the 90-year span of lives, because then they have to involve themselves in certain scenarios and people, hence like the Vatican, the dark science of the Nazi programs, and then coming into America. So we expose a lot of cover-ups and really what went on behind the scenes. So then each episode is almost going into a different era, but also spanning those two timelines over a 90-year period.
That's
So
wild.
yeah, it's really wild. It's really big, and hence why it's got a lot of interest, and it's got a lot of excitement. But obviously, if you're a producer or a studio, the concern is that this is a huge span of content. We are flying around some very sensitive subject matters that are still very much coming alive today.
Sure. That's why it needs to be made.
That's why it needs to be made. And also, we're dropping in and out from period timelines. So, but we feel like there is one network that seems to be not afraid of that and understands how fucking amazing the series could be, and it could go on for a long time, and then just actually follow the timeline in series 2 and 3, whereby we are living it in present day.
Yeah.
But what I love about it is, as we were writing it, is it exposing the history, and you, the audience, get to connect to the dots of how this all happened and how this tech advanced and why three-letter agents were set up and who was involved and what governments and what money moved around and what went on, and also the spy scene. And it also pulls up Ian Fleming. He was actually a MI6 agent.
Yep.
Yeah,
Writer of James Bond series.
writer of James Bond series, and where he got all his content from. He got it from real life scenarios.
Yeah.
So we hit along a lot of points that are really, really interesting. We hit along the Roswell event and how and really why that happened. And yeah, it's pretty eye opening when you get into some really heavy research and start speaking to people in the know. And obviously, there's a bunch of people that are quite nervous to say things. And also, we get into a lot of kind of the programs that the CIA set up, which was like MK Ultra and the telepathy and remote viewing, which has been really interesting, and how long that's been going on. Not only America, but obviously the UK, Russians, and how much they've used it. And that's what human consciousness is. We actually have that ability. We really do. Or we've been suppressed. And if we knew what capacity we had, boy, we can do so many things from just sitting right here with our mind, and I mean our mind.
Yeah.
But it's about, we've forgotten. I think it's like we only, even in this current day, we only use a certain capacity of our brain.
It's like 10% or something.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So if we opened all that up, you can get yourself and communicate to the other side of the world within an instant.
I watched a great podcast a while back, and I can't remember this guy's name, Mark something. I'll find it, but he was basically saying like humans are the most amazing thing that has ever been created, and he goes, right now we're at a critical moment where we're about to introduce AI into our world, and we're about to start putting machines and equipment foreign to us into our bodies. And he goes, this is a really dangerous moment because we haven't even maximized or even understood half of what it means to maximize what it means to be human.
Yeah.
So, without even reaching our full potential and without even understanding what that potential could even be, we're about to drastically alter what it means to be human.
Yeah.
And he said, like, this is probably going to go down as maybe one of the greatest crimes ever for our civilization. And that's a, when people talk about AI and maybe AI running the government or running our entire civilization or something like that, like people, no one's talking about the kind of angle that this guy had to talk about, where he's just saying like, let's at least figure out what's going on
Mm.
in here first before we go to Mars, before we create a, super intelligence, before we do all these other things, because we don't know shit about what's going on in here. And this is the greatest invention of of
Oh,
of
yeah.
anything. So he was really kind of frustrated with the lack of conversation around that. And then of course it's like, well, how do you monetize this research versus, billions of dollars for AI, billions of dollars for this? Like it's all about just money, right?
Yeah.
But the two things I've always found super interesting is like, why are we not spending more money figuring out what's really going on in the oceans? Because two-thirds
Mhm.
of our planet is covered in water,
Yeah.
and there's no research going on in about what's going on deep, deep, deep in the
Well,
ocean.
that's not true, but,
But
there is a lot of research going on.
it's not mainstream
It's not mainstream, and it won't be until, it's the same old
until you write
story.
about it.
Go I write about it and find out about it. If I find out about that, I'd probably be dead,
Yeah.
to be quite frank. But there is a lot of research going on, under the oceans, and you're right to think that.
Deep oceans and the human body.
Yeah, I actually believe that's where a lot of the action is and the activity is in terms of, whatever you want to call it, UAPs, UFOs, other civilizations, other intelligent forms. I think that's where they're at. I think they've worked it out. I think they were here a long, long, long time ago, way before us. But also, to play devil's advocate, technology has advanced us into who we are because there was a point where we discovered and created fire, which means then we could eat meat. This then changed how we looked in our skulls and our jawline. So then from there, after discovering fire, it just got faster and faster and, industrial revolution. And now here we are. So it's like, what, you know, I agree with that point, but also without it, we wouldn't be who we are now. So it's a hard one, right? It's like,
Mhm.
what do you want to stay in a cave or do you want to be here? And he's like, I understand his point of figuring out us before we can't figure out us anymore. I'm hugely on board with that, but it's hard because tech brought us here. So,
What if, and this is something I've never heard anyone talk about, but like, what if that cave dweller was able to access more of his brain than we are today? And what if that cave dweller was more connected to the earth, more connected to everything that's, natural in that natural environment? And what if like we could have been at a stage where we already had, telepathy, where we could talk
oh, I think we
over.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we did, and it's funny because whenever there's a certain event, like take an example because it's universal and I think everybody understands and knows it. It's just like 9/11. Apparently, prior to that, all the nature just disappeared.
Yeah.
It's like when a volcano goes off, there's an earthquake, there's a typhoon coming through. Nature just is gone.
When
So
animals are going that way,
when
you
animals,
follow
you
them.
follow them, but we don't because we're not in tune with the world and nature,
Yeah.
right? So they have they in a sense know how to remote view and they pick up on the frequency that we still can't pick up on because we've lost that capability. So to your point, yes, there is that, but here we are. I mean, that just didn't happen,
Yeah.
and we wanted more oil and we wanted more money, so we
More weapon
built
sales.
weapons and dominated other continents and countries, and here we are. So,
Such a
but
waste of time.
yeah, it's such a waste of time, and to a certain extent. But is it? Because in many senses, it's a great life. But it's like, well, here's what you could have had. I'm not sure what I could have had. And he's saying, which is a great fucking question, which is like, wait, can we just stop this?
Mm.
Because we know we can do it, right? We know we can have it. Let's just stop it and find out who we are. Back to a point of like, if we had a universal income, then people could then really discover who they are. They would have time,
Mm.
they would have peace, and they would probably flow in the right direction of who they are as a soul, which is, oh, I love to work with wood. I love to paint. It moves everybody in a direction where they have the freedom to do what they want to do. I don't know. It's a tough one. You can go around in circles with it.
Yeah, I like the idea of universal basic income, but then also too, like, you have to think. Like everything in our society at this stage
Mm,
is all about competing with the Joneses
mm,
and competing with your neighbors. So like out on my street now, where you parked,
mm.
every house is a different size.
Yeah.
Every car has a different value and a different age to it and a different rate of repair.
Right.
So if you do have like universal basic income,
Yeah.
like who gets more, who gets less, who gets a bigger house, who gets the right car, like
Yeah.
it'd be one thing if we all lived in a cookie cutter suburb where every house was the same, every
Same
car was the
size.
same.
Yeah, right.
But
You're right.
and then of course too, it's like if the government has to give us a universal basic income because all these technology companies are making so much money and they're taxed, then it's like how long does that argument take and how many millions of people will starve
Mhm,
from mass unemployment
mhm,
to when the government finally decides to give out universal basic income?
mhm.
Like it could be a decade,
Yeah.
it could be 2 decades,
Chickens, yeah.
it could be a year, it
Mm.
could be 6 months,
Right.
right? But however long that is just gonna be prolonged suffering for 80 or 90% of first world civilization, like
Yeah,
perhaps.
that's a really good point. How do you do that? How do you distribute it evenly amongst an entire population where there are people with hustle to get their $10 million home and the Porsche and, like, what the fuck? I'm gonna live on I can't live on this.
Yeah.
Do you trickle it down over a decade, 2 decades where you're trying to get to an equal point in status of living, but then you take away the the desire and the hunger and
To
the
innovate.
the drive to innovate and go out, and those people that already do it in this market and in this environment where, like me and you have made a choice to do a certain thing in a certain way, and somewhere along the line, that gets hard to do.
Mm.
Um, yeah, does it deplete us as a human race, which means then AI speeds up and takes over. Um, that these conversations must be going on a lot.
You hope.
You would hope, and the higher ups as well, but maybe they're not. I don't know. But this is what they should be thinking about. Philosophers and people with deep thinking should be sitting around a table with a lot of common sense,
But
thinking,
governments don't listen to them.
no, they don't. Yeah, which is really fucking unfortunate.
Slightly unfortunate.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, I couldn't predict where we're gonna be in 5, 10, 15 years. Can you? I don't know.
I don't know, but I went on to the Bhutan, the country Bhutan in the Himalayas, just south of China there, north of India, east of India. I went on to the Bhutanese website for immigration the other day just to see, like, hey, you got like retirement visas or anything like that? Because
Yeah.
I feel like if the world goes to hell in a handbasket, at least being in the Himalayan kingdom might be nice.
Yeah, that's pretty nice, yeah. But also that's another thing, like, China's down to a certain culture and how you're brought up, and, they've raised their standard of living hugely. But also my understanding is that they're more in agreement, well, I don't say agreement, but um they're more likely to step in line with their government and what they're told because that's just their culture. That's their the way that they're brought up as a whole. So then that whole country works together in a uniform state to bring everybody up.
Mm.
So it doesn't matter what level you are coming from. You're all going up the ladder, right? And
And
that's what it seems to be doing well. I don't know whether there's much freedom in that. But again, whereas America has created the message and it always has, is that you are free. This is free speech. Do as you wish,
mm,
which is not quite true
until you get assassinated.
until you get assassinated and get a job and try to do things. But in
Mm.
general, that's the message. So it kind of contradicts itself. Perhaps why they seem to be winning the race in other areas.
I think as I get older, I will get more tired of the bullshit that I'm already tired of.
Mhm.
And I definitely want to live in a very small country in a very remote part of the world that is really aligned and connected with nature. And I somehow feel like that will bring me a lot of peace and happiness.
100%, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess, still to do that, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, so, like, people who are in their later years of work, maybe we have, a nest egg, maybe the standard of living is high, the cost of living is low. Maybe if we invest our money wisely and generate an income from that investment, maybe we would have the chance to retire, with some kind of income that can be generated from that. Because you'd have to assume the stock market will continue to roll along, even if we pull ourselves out of society or things, something like that. Like, I think, yeah. Did you ever watch that movie Vanilla Sky with Tom
Yeah,
Cruise?
yeah, great. Yeah.
Great. So he goes to sleep for like 100 years or whatever, wakes up and he's broke, because he didn't have his money in the stock market. But if he had his money in the stock market when he woke up, he would have gone up X amount, thousands of
Right,
percent with the
right,
stock
yeah.
market over the same amount of time. So it's like if you stay invested in the world that other people are still fighting over, maybe you can generate enough to live on a small ranch somewhere out in the Himalayas,
Yeah,
cut off from the garbage of the world.
yeah. I've never understood the negativity around Tom Cruise,
Scientology.
but it's my understanding that he left that a long time ago.
No.
No? He didn't leave it long. Okay.
No, I
Do
think
you, do you get to leave?
yeah, I don't think you get to leave down
Yeah.
there.
Right, yeah.
You're in the right town for that, though.
Oh, for
Eh,
sure,
yeah.
yeah. Well, but he seems to get the focus, the full brunt end of the focus, where there's other huge names, actors,
Travolta.
Travolta,
Yeah.
I forget the woman's name. I think she was, I forget her name. She's Canadian, actually, I think.
Is she?
Yeah, she was, am I wrong? She's in Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, I don't know this one.
I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But obviously, Tom, I'm seeing him in terms of the industry as a great ambassador for the industry. And he's one of those profiles and actors where you know we're not constantly seeing him in the news for drugs or this or whatever. Like he just seems to be a really good role model for that and very passionate. But I don't know much about what he did or didn't do with Scientology and if he's still in it. But I guess, like, to your point, that's why.
Yeah, I think it's safe just never to meet your heroes. Like I don't want to know. Like
Right.
like I was doing after the fires, I did a charity event um over on the east side at a theater called Los Globos. Um, so I got on Santa Monica and I drove all the way, and of course, once you get past the 101, you hit the Scientology,
Technology.
the Church of
Yeah.
Scientology and stuff like that, and it's a big fucking, it's on a whole city block, like,
Yeah, it's huge.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, and of course, for people who really don't understand, like, religion in the United States is a great money making business because you don't pay federal tax, you don't pay state
Right.
tax, so you can come up with some kind of crazy bullshit, and basically any money that you can derive from that is completely tax free. So it's an absolutely brilliant, like, business model
Mm.
for people that want to generate wealth and things like that. So there's a lot of like skepticism,
Mhm.
um, around Scientology, and I think that Tom Cruise is so pretty heavily involved.
I didn't know if I didn't realize he was still involved. I thought
Yeah.
he left it a long time ago.
I think the media has stopped
Stop.
bothering him about it
Right,
now.
connecting him
Yeah.
to it, yeah, but he's still very much in it, yeah. I know John Travolta is, yeah, but you never really hear about him,
Yeah.
and his connection to it, you know well, I love what he does on screen. I think, he's pushing the limits. He's probably the last actual action hero because nobody else does stunts like him.
No, there's a few other like young guys coming up that are trying to do it. I think this new kid, Tom Holland, the Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah, he's
Yeah.
got yeah. Well, he was a former professional dancer as well.
Yeah.
He really aware of his body and, yeah, great actor, and seems very together
Yeah. He
as a
works out at
person.
the same gym that I work out at here in LA when he's in town.
Alright.
And I saw him a couple times and he is just fucking fit and he moves like
Yeah,
he
he's
just flies around. Like he was doing all these box jumps and stuff.
yeah.
And he was just like, he's a tiny guy already. He probably only weighs like
Yeah, he's
150
very
pounds.
nimble. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But fuck, he was just super fit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, he's very focused on fitness and, his body and stuff, so but, yeah, I'm a big fan of his as well. He's done some great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's next?
I don't know, man. You're next for this conversation or next for Tom Cruise and Tom?
God knows what's next for them, you know?
Yeah.
Sure, he's gonna retire soon, he's getting on. Should just let it go now.
Yeah, he's gonna have to take like, start playing grandpa roles instead of playing
Because the last, Mission Impossible did that, I think that's it for him. I think he said that. I
yeah.
think he's trying to pass the baton, but who to, I don't know.
Yeah, it would be nice to see him like step back and do like a Coen Brothers movie or something again with Paul Thomas Anderson or, start doing like really more character driven stuff because
Which
I think
which
he's got that
that's
skill.
that's what I mean. He does. He really moved me in some, like, like
Magnolia.
Magnolia and Rain Man and thing. It's just really, he's got it in him, and he's worked with every director there's ever been. I mean, he understands the industry, he understands everything about it. So maybe he'll come back to more character acting.
I'd love to see him go from like Mission Impossible making hundreds of millions of dollars to just doing like small indie movies with like a $10 million budget
Yeah,
and like really finding, so everyone shits on the Twilight series and the Harry Potter series, right?
right.
Because these young actors, they made so much fucking money, blah 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 blah. But you look at like Robert Patterson, you look at who is the Harry Potter kid?
Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, these
Yeah,
two actors have gone from being
yeah.
teen
He
icons.
just does Broadway now.
Daniel,
Daniel Radcliffe,
yeah,
pretty much. He doesn't want. I don't think he's done a movie for a while. Or
but Robert Patterson does the most interesting movies
he's
of
great.
anyone. Yeah,
He's
and it's
great.
and it's only because I think he's working for free or near free.
Pretty much, yeah. He's got enough money in the bank. Yeah,
Yeah,
what's that one he did with
the Mickey 17, that was fucking
He
crazy.
has one prize that is the it was the one that he just took a massive swing at, and it worked out really well. He was great. The brothers, not the Russell brothers, it's somebody else. Oh, I forget what it's called.
The
He's
Coen
robbing.
brothers.
He's got a brother who's uh I'm supposed to say this word here, like retarded, basically. I forget. And he helps him out, and they rob a bank. I forget. It was a great movie. I forget what it's called, but yeah, everything I've seen him in over the last 5, 6 years, great. But Daniel Radcliffe seems just to have, doing whatever he wants. I mean, he must be absolutely loaded.
Yeah.
You know, ins- insane amount of money. And again, he's very good on Broadway and very good. He's very committed and a great actor. But it's hard to get out of if you do Harry Potter or your Home Alone.
Yeah.
Like you're just going to spend the rest of your life getting out of it.
Yeah.
And most kid actors seem to have a tough time. If they've become really, really big as kid actors, you can't see them as anything else. And then in their own lives, they seem to have quite a few problems because why wouldn't you? I mean, like, you just thrown everything in yes and huge amounts of money, but it's not them that's actually they are making the money, but they're what, 9, 10, 11. So it's their agents, it's the business, they're the ones making it,
And
saying
their parents.
he's demanding now, whatever it is, and the parents pushing it. So
I think Josh Brolin's probably been one of the ones that have like kind of gone against that tide. Like I think because he was in Goonies, remember?
right,
And
yeah, yeah.
and now he's doing Avenger movies. But like the stuff that I love him in the best was like he did Sicario.
He's great in that.
Yeah.
Really great. And he, No Country for Old Men.
Oh yeah, the Coen brothers. Yeah.
Fucking brilliant. Yeah. He really moves me when he's on screen,
Yeah.
Josh Brolin. And again, just seems to be very real and raw, and yeah, he really moves me on screen. Those two movies were great.
When you're writing a screenplay or something like that, do you already have like an actor in mind or an actress in mind? Like when you're trying to put something together, like whether it's whether it's like a rhythm to the way their voice is or the way they talk or the way they move. Like, do you have something in your mind already where you're thinking like? Because I was listening to so I love Landman, right? And Taylor
Oh,
Sheridan's obviously
yeah.
writing and making all the money in Hollywood these days.
Beautiful writer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he was saying like, but Billy Bob Thornton was being interviewed, and Taylor Sheridan basically approached him and said, "Look, here's an episode of a series I want to pitch.
Mm,
I wrote the whole thing in your voice, thinking only of you.
mm.
And if you don't want to do it, throw it away because I'm not going to do it."
Yeah.
And that was his pitch for Landman. And of
Well,
course,
when you're Taylor Sheridan and when you're Christopher Nolan, you can pretty much within reason just pick out someone you're writing for and write it for them, and then probably approach them. And they're probably going to do it because it's Christopher Nolan and Taylor Sheridan. Why wouldn't you? But if you're someone like me who's unknown and I don't have the power to walk through those kind of doors, I try not to, but sometimes it's difficult. I have one small indie movie that I've wrote, uh, and we are shopping it right now. And there's someone I just couldn't get out of my head. And then I listened to a podcast that he was on and another one. I was like, oh, fucking hell, it's literally you.
yeah,
And I can't get him out of my head. And we're trying to go after him for him to read it in the hope that he will resonate with it because it's pretty much his childhood, it's his life.
Mhm.
And it's something that's probably close to his heart from what I can tell.
And he would just read it.
If you would just read it, but for me to get to him personally, just to, or someone to say, "Here, you need to read this," and then it's him who's someone extremely busy to sit down for 2 hours and read a script that where is it fucking coming from?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of fences you have to jump, the agents, the managers, etc. So I try not to. I try and concentrate on the subject matter, the story, because that's what's really going to sell. That's what's going to grab somebody. And then generally, then it goes up through the ranks, and then hopefully that person could be contacted, or maybe it moves in a different direction. We hear it all the time, whereby someone who's played a role. It's like what's his name? You watch Slow Horses.
Oh, fucking Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Can you imagine anybody else in that role? No,
No, not at all.
can't. But, and I'm not saying that it is, I think it actually was probably wrote for him. But there are so many scenarios where something like that is written for somebody, or they're trying to push it onto somebody like, God, we want you to play it, and their scheduling doesn't work out, or they don't resonate with it. It goes somewhere else, and it becomes an absolute, cult movie or a cult TV series because that person has played it so well. You can't imagine anybody else doing it. But prior to that, 3 people it's passed through.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether it's divine timing, whatever. But as a writer, I try not to. When I get to the stage, when you're at that level of Christopher Nolan, Taylor Sheridan, or Quentin Scorsese, you have quite rightly the power and the open doors to walk through to say, I've written this with you in mind or for you. Love you to read it. I know Christopher Nolan operates on a completely different level. I mean, he's an absolute pioneer and legend in my eyes. And, he doesn't allegedly have a phone or an email. And he flies to the person, like often he flies to Ireland to see Cillian Murphy. And he gives him the script that he wants him.
And sits down with him while he reads it.
Apparently he just goes, he'll go back to his hotel or something, just give me a phone call or whatever when you've read it.
Mhm.
On all his copies, his scripts are in pink or red, so you can't copy it. So he goes to extreme level, which I love. I you know, I mean, I guess I could do that, but I find it extremely hard. I have to operate at this level at this point. So, long answer to your question, but no, I don't generally try to do that, except from this one script where it just grabbed me and I can't let go now, and I can't get him out of my head. Now, if it ever gets to him and he says no, I'll move on. But generally, I think it's more important to concentrate on the story and the character that you're building, and then things develop from there.
Yeah.
And that's the most exciting thing about writing. You generally have a beginning and an end. A lot of people really like to map it out with a lot of detail, synopsis. I do, but it's a little bit loose. But it's me conjuring up so many thought patterns and thinking with a coffee or on a run or on a hike, or like I start to put it together in my mind. It's very visual. And once I think I've got something, I might pass it through casually, through certain people. What do you think? Get their thoughts. I won't um, divulge too much information
Sure.
and see what their response is. And by that time, I go, I know I've got something, and then I'll start to write, and then I'll get it down on paper. So, but yeah, I think it. If you would ask Taylor Sheridan when he was writing Sicario in his one-bedroom apartment, I heard him on a podcast once
As a failed actor.
as a failed actor and turned down the next season of whatever he was in. If he was writing for someone, I'd be surprised to say, yeah, I was absolutely writing for Josh, or I think he was just writing what he knows and what he's really good at, and the story was so fucking good and so strong.
Benicio.
Yeah, but I mean that cast, and also what's his name, the DOP on it was the English guy.
No, it's Denis Villeneuve, wasn't it?
No, he did the next one. The DOP on the first Sicario was oh my god, he's an absolute legend. DOP, English guy. God, it's gonna kill me now. It'll come to me. But the people that happens once in a blue moon in film and TV. Is like all these amazing talents come together, all available somehow.
Yeah.
They will love what they've read, so they want to come together, and they made it, and Sicario turned into what it is. And number 2, I think they're doing number 3 as well, which would be great. But
That will be, yeah.
I don't know how Taylor. I've read so many of his scripts. They're beautiful, beautifully written. It's like sometimes it's like reading poetry.
Mm.
And he describes things so well. You're just there. You can smell it, you can touch it. I think he's pretty incredible. how he writes as much content at such a great level, I'll never understand. I mean, he's got Yellowstone, he's got tons of they've been coming out spin-offs and just this and that. I was like, "How the hell is he churning this out?" But obviously it's coming from within. He's meant to do this.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to see him, in terms of, you know, like the failed actor having the last life. I mean, he literally owns Paramount. I mean, he uses his own ranch,
Tulsa
his
King.
own
Yeah.
horses, his own studio he's got now in Texas. He does it his way or no way. I mean, it's just, and it's working and it works. It's what people want to see.
Yeah. Do you
It,
see he's signing a deal with NBC Universal now?
I heard something that once he's finished with Paramount, which is fairly soon, he's going to NBC. Yeah, But weirdly, I heard that also they didn't put anything in the contract whereby would sit at a table and we would go over the renewal of having you on board. But it's funny, isn't it? It's just, but I think that's probably a good thing. It's like the guys with Stranger Things. They've left Netflix now.
Oh, have they?
Yeah, and they've gone over to is it Paramount or is it is it Paramount? Yeah, I think it's Paramount. They've
Mhm.
scooped them up. So once they've finished over there with the season, they're going over there.
I've always been really let down by all these, like, big showrunner deals, like Ryan Murphy going to Netflix,
Mhm.
Shonda Rhimes going to, like, all these big, like, names, like, getting these $100 million plus deals to go, and then they just put out stuff that, I don't know, their just heart's not really in, and a lot of it's just really not great.
Yeah, I think it's a hard one. You hustle and push so hard and grind it out, and then you become successful.
Yeah. Oh, the
Um,
magic's in the grind.
but the magic is in the grind. Yeah. It's like athletes, it's like writers, it's like actors, everybody, or generally you find the juice at the start of their career or just after because they just develop and then they become something of a name. So then they're still hustling because they haven't quite got the big paychecks yet. It's just starting to come in, starting to roll. So they're enjoying that. And then when you get to a stage where you've become such a big name, you've churned out so many good things, then everybody wants you now. And now, especially with the execs in the studios, where they're looking at the money and they're looking at the audience grab. So, like, Taylor grabs this amount of audience and it's making this amount of money. Everybody's going to want a piece of him.
Mm.
So, to your point, when they do that, I understand why they'll say, yes, I'll take the $100 million deal because they're good for life. So, it's like, who's the actor who said, now I do one for them and one for me?
Soderbergh.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's like, I do one for them, which is means the studios because they're going to
Ocean's 11.
give me a fucking check for like $200 million.
Yeah.
And then once I finish with that motherfucker, I'll go and do and write something that I want to do. And you probably use my own money to do it and set it up, and then I'll do one for them.
Mhm.
So I understand that because we work in an industry where the money doesn't always flow. And if you stay in it long enough, you realize at some point the train's going to stop. So you're just trying to pile on as much as you can to that train before it stops. So then you've got enough to live.
I think if you're an actor, for example, and you can write,
Mm,
the train really doesn't ever have to stop because you can just write, like I just feel like so few actors really like writing, but if you have the skill to act
mm,
and the desire to be in front of the camera,
mm,
and you also have this, intense passion to write,
mm.
you can always write for yourself better than anyone else could. Like I was always amazed by Jason Segel. Now he's a comedian,
Mhm.
and he wrote How I Met Your Mother, right?
Yes.
Or he was on that sitcom, and he was I think he was one of the writers on the sitcom. He was one of the stars on the sitcom. But every summer he wrote a movie for himself.
Right,
And
right.
of course the most famous one was Forgetting Sarah Marshall,
Sure, yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is fucking classic.
Yeah, yeah, of course, yes, cold fucking classic, yeah.
But I just loved it that he would take all that TV money,
Yeah.
and write and grind and write a perfect, thing. And he got Russell Brand and Jonah Hill when Jonah Hill was really unknown, and
Mhm.
he put all these people together, and I just love the fact, like, here's a guy who loves being in front of camera, super charismatic. He's amazing in shrinking the new Apple
Yeah,
Suze,
incredible.
and then in his spare time he's writing these perfect movies for himself,
Mm.
and they're kind of quirky and kind of funny, but that's kind of who he is.
Yeah, I think that's what you in my opinion, you have to be now. You have to be kind of the triple threat. You know, I come from a theater background, where a triple threat was always talked about in terms of you have to be able to, act, sing, and dance. You have to have those three at a high level to get into a show. So it's called the triple threat. It's now probably turned into some kind of quadruple threat. But there was a day, maybe it was more set up in the 80s and 90s, where you just did the one thing, which is like he's an actor, she's an actor, producer, director. They
Those
stayed in
days
their
are gone.
yeah, they stayed in their lanes because you could, and you could do well, and you could earn good money, and you could do all these things and keep progressing.
Mhm.
Whereas now, I'm not only having to, which I some of it I like and some of it I fucking hate, which is like, I just want to write and then I want to hand it over to somebody, manager, an agent, and then to get general meetings for them in the right lanes to then sell it. And then I get a check. I'm like, oh, I'm going to go again. I just want to keep writing great stories or the best work that I
Are
can.
you
But
being looped into producing
yeah,
and
of course,
fundraising
you
and all
have
this
to.
other
You
shit?
have to not only write it, but then come up with a really good deck. Now people will argue, "Oh, you don't need a deck," but you kind of do because what you're trying to do is give somebody a taste of what this thing is, and they haven't got much time. So you're trying to put it in front of someone with a really good visual, as little as text as possible to get it across. So you got your kind of log line, your summary scenario, and given the imagery and the aesthetic that matches what you're trying to get across. So from there, you should be like, "This looks great. This sounds great." If you got a script, yes, I have. Here,
Yeah.
now read. Now they're slightly invested to go and read it because to read a pilot, you're looking at 50, 60 pages. To read a feature film, you're looking at 100, 120. It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
So you're trying to graduate them to that point where there's enough interest they're going to sit down because most people don't read the fucking script, and that's okay. Well, it isn't okay, but it is okay because when you get to a point where in meetings you're like on page 87, where he kills him and the ghost comes in and the execs are like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't fucking read it.
Yeah.
The assistants read it, so I get it. There's a hierarchy, there's a system in place.
I
But
had a
it's
friend that was a script
yeah,
reader, and he would make notes for the executives.
yeah, and that's their job. It's frustrating as the writer when you're sitting down. But yeah, it's just the way the industry has been set up. But now then there's perhaps a little bit more control because if I do get through the gates, because I've written it, I'm now selling myself as the producer on it or one of, and I've created the deck and I've worked all this out. I'm bringing you this whole thing, Mr. Netflix, HBO, whatever.
Mhm.
And they go, this is great. It's kind of like most of the work's been done. It's been kind of mapped out. They're always going to fucking change it. They're always going to get their own writer on board, whatever. That's fine. Because I came up through the ranks as an actor, I heard a lot of no's or a lot of nothings. So I'm used to,
You got thick skin.
I understand when they take it from me, it's not going to stay like it is. It's not my baby anymore. As long as you give me enough incentive to leave you, then it's okay. It's part of the industry. I think people forget it is a business. But when you get to the nirvana of what Taylor Sheridan and Christopher Nolan do, that's when it must be. Of course, they have their hurdles as well, even at that level. But it's like they have so much control, creative control, and that's what I love about it. That's why I do it because I'm gunning for that point.
Mhm.
Um, so I think like I said, because the industry's changed so much, you have to be a triple threat now. I understand acting because I've acted. I'm not going to say whether I was good or bad, probably somewhere in between. But I love writing. I love telling stories. And but I can do many things,
Yeah.
and I think to be a triple threat and do four things within an industry, I think that's what you have to be now. Not only to understand it, but to make your way up the ladder.
And it's almost, and just so people understand, like, you know, doing 4 things in the entertainment industry doesn't mean like on this film you're going to produce it, on this film you're going to write it, on this film you're going to act in it. It's kind of like doing 4 things to get one project off the ground.
100%.
Yeah.
That's what it is because I'm not really a producer, nor do I have at the moment the desire to be because it's a fucking hectic job. I understand the risk that they're taking. It's not as clean cut as people think it is. Oh, he produces it, he makes all the money. No, they don't. They take a huge risk actually.
Yeah.
They throw a lot of money at it, and a lot of times it doesn't work out. So
And you get paid last often.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you get paid at the very end or not at all because
Mm.
it didn't fucking work out. So they have to ramp it up and make box office, and they have to get it right, or try and get as close to being right. So, but understanding that point of view is really valuable when you're going into meetings. I know somebody, I won't mention their name, but they're back in the UK, phenomenal writer, beautiful, like writes super, super well. Had a script about a very big, famous profile, but everybody wanted to meet him because it was a really great script. But he's like, I want to play him. They're like, "Well, who the fuck are you?"
Mm.
Basically, he's like, "No, no," and he walked away, and then went to the next studio, next person. They're like, "No, but I want to play him." "No, no, we want to buy a script. We want to do this, but you can't play him. You're nobody. You're not. We need to put an A-lister here because it's a business, right? So we need his name up on the billboard, not yours. Because who the fuck are you?" And I was trying to tell him at the point, like, "You're a really good writer. You're really, really good. Let this go. Get some money. Get credited as the writer.
Mhm.
This will blow up because it's got him on the billboard and then whatever."
And then you
And
could
then
play your next one.
and then the next time you go around, you can demand X, Y, and Z. And by the third one, you probably can sit at the table and go, "You know what? I want to play him." And they're like, and they'll probably go, they probably might not even happen, but at least they'll go, "Okay, well, we'll consider it."
Mm.
You have to graduate to that point. And I think also on a larger scale now, we're going back to what we're talking about, a more worldly view, and it's seeping into other scenarios and a younger generation. We're fed with immediate gratification. It's like, I want that job and I want that money. I want the company to now.
Mm.
Now, there's no slow grind to it. And that's what I'm afraid of. And that's what's happened to the industry. It's like we need immediate gratification. We need that profit margin. We need to get to that point. We need to get there quickly. That's why franchises were created, because once we've got a global audience that's interested in this superhero, and we've created a fan base around it that sells merchandise and does X, Y, and Z. Now we're just going to churn out another one because we know that they love this
Mhm.
in general, and we know that they're going to probably walk into it and buy it. So we're going to go again, and we're going to go again until it just doesn't work, because they're like, "Oh, it's just kind of the same thing, isn't it? Over and over again, and he never dies." So, and we had a good 10-year run of that. And some of those movies are fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Great writers, great actors, like the whole thing. But I think it's just drowned out. And I think we're coming back to something that's much more grounded, real, raw. I think the festival market and circuit is going to benefit from what's happening. Um, and Going back again full circle to AI and how it's disturbing the industry, you know, um, maybe there's just going to be a no man's land between 200 to $300 million movies and $10 million movies. I don't know.
I had a conversation with someone a couple months ago, and I was throwing around business ideas, and I think like people are so tired of the blockbuster now.
Mm.
People are so tired of superhero movies,
Mhm.
and I also think A-list actors are tired of these too, even if they've made a lot of money.
Money, yeah, yeah.
And I was thinking like I would love to open up a Hollywood studio at the depth of misery that Hollywood is in, which could be now. Um, I would love to open up a studio in Hollywood that only makes $10 million movies.
Mm.
And the idea would be to engage really authentic, unique voices, writers
Mhm.
from different backgrounds all over the world, and really try to put out like one or two or three or four movies a year on a $10 million budget, but make each one like really something quite special.
Mm.
And I think if you were to do that, I absolutely believe you would get A-list talent.
You would.
I absolutely believe you would save the theater system. You like, I'm only going to make a $10 million movie and I'm only going to put them out into the theaters, right?
Yeah.
And I think that if you just came out and it put that up as your mandate,
Mhm.
I think, you could get a lot of interest, and the audience would start to recognize the production company. Like, cuz you can tell an A24 movie when
Yeah.
you watch it, right?
Yeah.
It's got a style to it.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter who the director is, who the actors are, whatever. Like A24 does, like I think we need to have like a low budget, highly creative, A24 style film that just refuses to do anything more than $10 million,
Mhm.
and just spend a lot of time and energy on creativity, and let the A-list actors, the Benedict Cumberbatch, all these guys that have gone and done Marvel movies, watch them all come back
Mm.
to try to win Oscars and try to do like really character-driven movies. And I think that would be such a great idea. And I just feel like having a cap on the amount of money you spend on each movie would give investors and shareholders confidence that you have a vision of what's going to happen. And no director that comes to you and no actor that comes to you would be able to push above that $10 million limit. So you've always got a ceiling in place. And but the key is that the content has to be the highest quality in order to bring those people through the door, and that's like the hiccup. But I think something like that, we're gonna see it.
I do.
Yeah,
I think I love that idea.
yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I think it should happen.
Because you don't need $200 million to make a good movie.
You really don't. And when you're given a budget with a ceiling and you know that's it, you will produce better things
Mhm,
because you'll have to consolidate. I have this much for my actors out, but more to the point is that the story has to be really fucking good and it has to touch hearts and minds.
mhm.
And without a great script and a great story and great characters, you're a non-starter already. So they're not going to give you the $10 million. So I think that's a great idea. I think that's what it's coming back to. Um, you know, I mean, you give someone $100,000, they'll be very grateful and they'll go out and probably make a really fucking good movie or a good short at least. So let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think things have been consolidated too much, and there's too few people telling stories, and they've just demanded massive amounts of money. Like, like, think of the Joker 2, right?
Mm.
Like, Joker 1, reasonable budget,
Yep.
um, made $1 billion.
Yeah, it did very well.
Joaquin won Best Actor, et cetera, et cetera. And then, I think they did it on like a $50 million budget, which is pretty good for an A-lister and for
Mm,
that kind of material
mhm.
that they had to, and DC, took probably a lot of it because that's one of their characters. And then to do the second one is all of a sudden it's got like a $250 million budget, and then it fucking flops, and it's like one of the biggest flops, of all time. And it's funny, like even mission, not the last Mission Impossible, but I guess the last one was 7, but I was reading like Mission Impossible 6
Mhm,
actually lost money.
mhm.
Like, it made like 400 million or $500 million at the box office, but still lost money
Yeah.
because it cost them like 250 or 300 million to make,
Yeah.
and then they had to promote it.
Mhm.
And I was just like, how do you spend $500 million making something and still lose money on it? Like like, I understand having to get eyeballs, having to do marketing and stuff like that, but at some stage, like, that's going to collapse in on itself.
I think it already has, or it's happening now. And it goes back to the point of nobody knows what the audience really wants
Yeah.
at that particular time because it's constantly changing. It's very hard to predict, but yet they keep on doing it. They keep chucking, going, yes, this must be the one. And then it flops or it loses 100, 200, $300 million. I mean, if you've got that money to burn, which I guess Tom Cruise has,
Hmm. Or
and
can raise.
yeah, and he's very focused on just doing the best job that he possibly can, which I applaud, whether you agree with that or not. Um,
His motives are definitely in the right place.
yes,
Yeah.
but it happens all the time. It's been going on for so long. But to your point, like it's an astronomical amount of money. It's a real waste, and we should have learned by now. And we should have ceilings on budgets, and we should allow people to graduate and learn and also make mistakes. But when you've got a ceiling with 10 million budget, that's okay. When you do it on such a grand scale, on such a grand stage of $300 million, everybody knows. It's like, oh, this is a flop. Well, whose fault is it? Well, yeah, you can't really point fingers because it takes a fucking village to make a movie.
Mhm.
So, of course, everybody jumped in because it's good money and it seems on the script that it's going to be great. The trouble is with film and TV is that you go from here, it's a visual blueprint for then it's a director's realm, but then the director's affected by the budget and perhaps who his DOP is and who the executives are and who the studio. There's so many chiefs involved.
Yeah.
It's near impossible to get it right. But when you bring it down and consolidate it to a much smaller budget and a real focused brand like A24,
Yeah.
we know what we're doing. It fits in here. This is what we do. Um, I think that is is the future
Yeah.
or should be the future. Whether it becomes that or not, I don't know.
$10 million budget, 30-day maximum shoot, first time directors.
Yes, yes. Yes.
I would love to see us. I mean, if there's any investors out there that want to set up a business, I would love to. I would love to see something like that. Like, because, but then again, like veteran writers,
Mm,
first time directors,
mm.
and with the veteran writers come the good stories and the characters, and then you'll get the A-listers.
That's
And
a great mix.
and then the A-listers, because like the A-listers work all the time for nothing.
Yeah.
Like the shit just has to be good.
Yeah.
And I think like if you built a studio based entirely on that,
Mhm.
you would crank out some absolute gems. And I think come awards season, you'd do very well.
Yeah, because the awards in a sense, not the award itself tangibly, but the celebration of it and the understanding of making art
Hmm.
is really important. And as an artist, as an actor, or whatever, musician, that's important to us to be recognized, basically, and what we've put into it, and the village that has made that film. So I think you're absolutely right. I'd love to see that happen. Perhaps it will.
Hmm.
Maybe we can get some investors out there
Who's listening?
who's listening. That would be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the mix of like a veteran writer. So we've got a solid story and understanding of structure, but then we get a first time director in. He's doing well on commercials or something like that.
Mm.
He's got great vision.
Mm.
Let's get him in. And then you mix it up also in the cast, get a veteran A-lister come in, just holding the ground. And then you get some real newbies. I've always really liked what Steven Spielberg did, which is he always seems to cast young, unknown actors.
Mhm.
And because he's at the helm, it just always seems to work out really well. And then he surrounds them with kind of veterans, or, there's always a solid story. Um, and he spends a lot of time, I understand, from the casting,
Yeah.
going through, in the room with them, grinding it down to 5 people, and then spending a lot of time with them, and finding that person. He seems to do very well with that. But again, that's someone who has the luxury of probably the time and the money to do that. But
Mm.
I like it. I like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Just we'll fire it up. Well, look, buddy, we've been going with this. We're in our 2 hour and 50 seconds. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about? Like anything going on that we haven't discussed?
I can't think of anything right now. I'm sure when I get back in my car. But, oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Your wife is expecting you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, dinner. It's dinner time.
Yeah.
Way past my dinner time. But man, thank you so much. It's great to see you. It's great to catch up. I love what you're doing, and continue to follow you. And thanks for having me on. And at this point, I can't think of anything else to discuss. I mean, there's so much, but um, until the next time.
Yeah, this has been great. This is like one of the most kind of wide ranging conversations I've had in a while. So
Yeah, I love this.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like what I love about you and your setup is like there is no agenda. We just roll,
Mhm.
and I think that's great.
Brings me a lot of happiness.
Yeah, and I really enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, man.
Yeah. So now we can go up here so people can see we're in the same room. And great to see you, buddy.
Oh, you too,
And
man.
come by anytime. We can talk about anything.
All right, let's do it.
Just an open. Let's see how this one goes first.
Let's see how this goes, and let's see if we can get that studio going.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right.
Take
Cheers.
it easy, man.
Fade to